Okay, journalism B, 3 images.
Gulls attack endangered whale, sorry. 1 of 3. Kelp gulls wait for southern right whale to surface and breathe in the Valdez Peninsula, Argentina. Next. 2 of 3. Gulls use their powerful beaks to peck down into the whale's skin and blubber. Peck marks leave huge, large open sores. Predatory behaviors contribute to calf mortality.
A pretty amazing story, actually. I had no idea that they did this to these poor whales. And apparently the whales survive if they're adults. And so that's an eye-opener. And of the series, I thought the series really told the story well. The second picture in was really strong because you can see more of what the gull on the whale's back is doing. And then you've got the story of the action of another one coming in for the kill, so to speak. So each of the pictures individually, I thought stood well to tell the story. But this one, if you had only one that would ever get chosen for publication, this one would really show how they're chewing away on that skin and more come in and the potential of being attacked. And so I like this one, and I think it's powerful, but without the others, or without the text especially, you wouldn't necessarily be sure you knew what was going on because it's an unusual activity.
Brenda, just say next when you're ready to move on.
Oh, sorry, right, I forgot about the next. Next.
America's Cup World Series 2012, 1 of 4. ACWS 2012 held October 2012 in San Francisco Bay were trials for the 34th America's Cup 2013. 11 teams sailed in match and fleet races on identical 44-foot catamarans dubbed AC-45s. Artemis versus Luna Rosa, speed for an AC-45 is 35 miles an hour. Unequal depths of port and starboard dagger boards at midship allow boats to turn on a pitcher's mound. Riding the rail keeps AC-45 flat rounding a turn. Danger of pitch pulling, going stern over low dipping bow is real, as one can see on the lead AC-45. Match racing AC-45s is exciting. Fleet racing is downright crazy. Team Korea should not be heading toward Luna Rosa. Wind speeds this day were at 23 miles per hour.
Well, there's a lot of action in each of these pictures, except for this one. So this kind of establishes the event, but I felt like this picture was a little bit removed. I felt removed. I looked at it and thought, oh, that's nice. Felt like maybe I was standing on a pier from the distance. And that's not a bad thing. The picture is fine. But when we go to the next one, we start getting into the scene. And now I feel like I'm on a boat on the water, and hopefully you were, and getting to feel the action that is happening. You can see the spray coming up, and you can just get the sense of how close the boats are together. Next. And as you get to this one, you really start to feel this sort of tension in the excitement. So I really liked this picture a lot because you feel like the one is bearing down on the other. So again, if there was only one out of these that was shown, this one would be the one that really has the most energy and dynamic tension built into it as an individual shot. Next. As the series, all of them, I think, work really well together. And I didn't realize at first when I looked at this one the other day that it was up on one of the, I guess you call them the pontoons or whatever that is. And I thought, oh, wow, that makes that really interesting. But the way you're viewing it, it's not as readily noticeable as as it would be if you were a little more sideways to it. So that previous shot, I think, is still the strongest of them all, but together they tell a good story. Next.
Sunday polo, 1 of 4. 4 players on each team line up. Play begins when the referee tosses in the ball, which is made of high impact plastic. Polo dates back to the 6th century BC Persia. The game consists of 4 to 6 7-minute chukkers. Players may change horses or gear during the chukker. This player swings a broken mallet to the amusement of his teammate. Equipment includes the cane, mallet, helmet, whip, boots, and protection. Equipment worn by a horse is called tack. This includes bridle, reins, English saddle, stirrups, and martingale. All players carry the mallet in their right hand. The defender may use the mallet to hook another player's mallet, but only in the process of the opponent trying to hit the ball.
So I think this is also a good storytelling series. The picture that seemed to be the odd man out was the picture of the tack and so forth, and we'll get to that in a minute. So this tells me that something is going on and there's a lot of mallets in the air and horses all together. So not knowing the sport very well, the title is important so that we have a sense of what is happening, what's about to happen. And if you go to the next one, now this one I really liked because there is that action and that leaning and that whole idea of being ready to, reach down and hit the ball. And I like the other rider, Papa Polo, off on the left side of the frame. Just all of that, comes together in a nice action shot. Next. I realize that this is part of the story, and in a larger photo essay, this would be a picture that could be useful. But I think what happened for me when I looked at this is it was messy, and it is a messy environment, and it's no fault of the photographers. But being messy, if I were there, I'd be thinking about how can I tidy this up compositionally to try and make it stronger and not have so many bits dragging me every which way in the frame. And so I think a vertical shot would have cleaned it up so that, can you see my cursor? I don't think so because we're on your screen, and that's okay. So imagine coming in on the left, I'll get to describe now, to the blue bucket, let's say, and on the right, coming in to where, yes, you're probably even cutting off some of the horse's tail that's behind the tree. But in cleaning that up, you still have the saddles, you have the mallets, and you've got the bucket, and you've got a bit of the trailer and the view into it. And I think that simplifies this scene and still then tells the story of their equipment. Next. And I liked this image as well because now there's a real sense of action and the fact that the first person could miss, and I don't know the game, but maybe the second person then gets to swing at it. But, that closeness of the horses and the fact that they're both reaching out just, I think, adds some real action to the story. Next.
Journalism A, one image.
CAL FIRE's air support can be seen in the distance with the smoke, within the smoke from the Walbridge fire west of Healdsburg on Thursday, August 20th, 2020.
Well, it's certainly a poignant picture, and it really just shows the fire cloud, the firestorms that we've been having. And the planes really add to this. I mean, I've seen a lot of photographs, as many of us have, where it's just the ridge burning and clouds and smoke and flames, but having the planes in there gives a sense of scale to the scope of the fire and the smoke behind it. So I thought that was really a good way to help tell that story, because there isn't anything else other than that ridge line that would, you could include in this case. So the planes really make it. Next.
One moment. Journalism AA, 4 images.
On August 11th, 2020, a pre-dawn electrical storm hit Sonoma County. This lightning strike was one of many to pass through Petaluma as it moved north.
Oh, excuse me?
No, I was going to say, no, that shouldn't say one of 4, should it? This is one of 1, so I'll talk about it now. Very powerful image. I don't know if this person lives at this level in downtown Petaluma, but what a view, what an opportunity, and a scary one at that, to be able to capture this. And to have the sun breaking through the clouds in the back and have the lightning coming down, that combination is really unusual. So it really speaks about the power of it all in this image, and that it's dark enough that the lights are on, that, you know, blue hour done very, very differently. Next.
Honeybees love poppies, 1 of 3. Beekeeper and COVID-aware Taya Bierling grows opium poppies in Kenwood for her bees. Poppies have no nectar, but the bees come in droves for the pollen, which may have special attractants. Eventually, heavily laden, they make a beeline to the hive where the pollen is stored as food for the bee larvae.
That was something I didn't realize about the poppies, that just really didn't think about nectar versus no nectar. So it's really just the pollen that they're going for. I love this picture because of her mask. Of course, a beekeeper should have a bee mask, right? So that part of it was really nice. And just her shirt and the fact that the bee is flying out of the flower and the shadow of the bee is on it. So, you know, this as a standalone picture just had a nice story feeling to it. And it was good. Next. And I think as a sequence, these all work together well, and that you've got the pictures of the bees coming in, and 4 of them being in there really says that they're attracted to this flower and really going for it. And then next, the final image here with them heavily laden with the pollen all back on their legs. This thing looks like it can barely get off the ground. You feel the heaviness of the bee here, and the flower, the closeness that you have in this framing just puts us right in there so that we can actually hear the buzzing of the wings. Nicely done. Next.
Deaths in the Grand Canyon, 1 of 3. The National Park Service reports that about 3 people per year fall to their death from the canyon rim. The canyon rim can be unstable, and posing at its edge is very dangerous. Given the danger, we have to ask how important that selfie really is.
Indeed. And when I read the caption on this one, I thought, you know, what a challenging story to illustrate, because without the text, we would not get why you were taking pictures of people standing or having their picture taken standing at the edge of the canyon, because we all want to do it. We want to say we were here and here's the scenery behind us. And then it hit me like, wow, this is really something that most of us don't think about. In this picture, compositionally, I wish that you had, and I'd say this with tongue in cheek, but I wish you had taken a step to the left to get that branch away from his body. But I have a feeling you would have become a statistic if you had done that. So I realized that that was tricky, but this one didn't have the same impact as the other 2. So we'll go on to the next one. And I think this one has really strong impact for your storyline, because the person taking the picture, you feel like she's right on the edge, and you can see that the other 4 women are. And I thought to myself, my gosh, that woman in that long green thing, if somebody stepped on the edge of that by accident and, you know, and it caused a tripping, she'd be over the edge. So this picture had that power of your story, I think, really well. And then the next picture, I think, also did to a point, but it's a little bit less tension creating because she's sitting, whereas the others are standing there at the edge. So this one, it would be, you know, it's still part of a good story, but it didn't seem to have the same impact that that middle picture did for me in terms of the overall story that you were telling. Next.
Myers Fire, 1 of 3. In the morning of August 17th, a lightning storm struck the coastal mountains of California. 4,808 strikes recorded in California started numerous fires, mostly in the Bay Area. 2 of 3. The Myers Fire, 2,360 acres, was part of the LMU complex of fires, 375,209 acres. The Myers went from Myers Grade Road west to the coastline in an area north of Jenner. Compare this image taken from the same place 2 months earlier to the previous image. The damage to natural habitat due to the fire can be easily seen.
These pictures are emotionally difficult for many of us to look at. You know, we've been so shattered by fires in our lives over the past several years. And yet the power is just amazing. And so this, you know, any pictures of lightning just are dramatic because capturing them is tricky unless you have a lightning trigger. And otherwise it's just luck. But with as many strikes as we had, I think a lot of people got lucky in getting a shot of that lightning because it was really incredible. This one has impact because of it, but it's a difficult shot because of, you know, the darkness and, you know, what are you going to do compositionally? You know, we're just pointed up at the sky, but it has some trees and it just kind of establishes part of the story of what's unfolding afterwards. Next. This one and the next, of course, going hand in hand, are really good photojournalism in that, you know, it's one thing to show this picture and we can kind of imagine, but if you have pictures like it, obviously you did, of an area that was not burned and you went back to see what had happened and now you have the two, it's an incredible story and study of what the fire did, how it burned through the area, how much damage it did, and so forth. And often journalists don't get that opportunity. They get to see it just after it's burned. So I think that made this series powerful to be able to have the comparison shot, the next one. You know, and I looked and I thought, oh, that's smoke. And then I realized, no, that's probably just coastal fog. But these days we don't trust when we see things like that anymore. We're not sure. So I think this was a good series overall. Next.
Journalism Masters, 5 images.
May 30th, 2020, hair salons and many other businesses are closed due to COVID-19 restrictions. A daughter cuts her father's hair for him on the front porch while a child plays in the yard.
It says 1 of 5, but it's not, right?
This is the first entry of 5 entries. It's not
okay,
not
so
a
it's not a series, right? I'm just making sure when I saw that I'm right. I thought it was a single entry. So on this image, I felt like it was a sneak shot because it's shot through the shrubbery, and you might have done that because you didn't want to disturb or encroach on them. And I understand that. At the same time, there's a very powerful story going on there, including the American flag above, which is a little bit wrapped up. So probably there wasn't much more to show, but I think a vertical could have been really strong here because it would have eliminated some of the distractions of the left side of the frame where the broom handle or whatever that is there. And it would have minimized some of that out of focus foliage. And it would have allowed us to stay a little bit more in the core of the image. And aside from just asking if you could make a picture of them from a safe distance, which would be the ideal thing, because this feels like it was a secretive sort of voyeuristic kind of shot. And that I think doesn't add to the directness that photojournalism, that we look for in that. Next.
Patrons line up outside Wildflower Bakery, masked and socially distanced, Freestone, California, July 2020.
I really like that people are documenting our lives as they are now, because this is a time in history that we'll never forget. And yet it's tricky also because this place is kind of messy on the outside, you know? And so now you've got a bunch of bodies, and you've got a man about to cross in front of the bodies. And there's a man with his arm reaching out, and I didn't know if he was reaching out to say, hey, keep your distance, or what was happening. But there's a lot to look at in the picture. And so it's a little confusing. And I would encourage you to try to tell the same story, but see if you couldn't simplify it somehow. Sometimes less is more, and having this much stuff, including that really bright, whatever that orange and white, whatever marker you call that, that pulls my eye to the left. And I kind of like the guy crossing the frame with holding the dog, because that's part of reality, you know, coming in front of the camera lens. And that's also a popular way to photograph these days. But I just think it still needs some cleaning up to try and make a little more sense out of it. And maybe that's having them all facing the same direction in line instead of every which way. That might help, if not that you could control that. Next.
The tattoo artist focuses intently on his work at the 2020 Santa Rosa Tattoo and Blues Festival in Santa Rosa. Future conventions have been canceled due to COVID, and the industry has been hit hard.
This is a really good picture. I love the intensity of his face and the focus as he's working on her. And I love that she's just closed her eyes and maybe gone someplace else, so she's not feeling the needle. I don't know what that would feel like, and if you feel it, but it's tough for me because I hate needles. But it has a moment in it, and it's really nicely done. And it's just lucky that she has some nice light hitting her face, but you can feel that she's very comfortable and relaxed while he's working on her. And that just added to the story. It was really well done. Next.
Protests, 1 of 4. Seattle suburb of Bellevue was hit hard by looting at the start of the 2020 protests. Community members came out to help with the cleanup. Much of the shopping district was damaged, such as this Verizon store. Hundreds joined in the cleanup effort, cleaning graffiti and broken glass up from the normally lovely streets. These volunteers scrubbed off graffiti on Nordstrom's wall. The pandemic and riots have made 2020 an infamous year, and it isn't over yet.
This was a strong series, and I thought also this one was very well framed. The timing was great. It's so serendipitous that she has a red bristled broom that matches the red star from Macy's. But these are the things that can make a picture like this elevate beyond just a good shot. It makes it stronger because of the color tie and the boards. I mean, this alone tells a story that something bad was happening. Next. And this one also, you know, you look at it and you just, it's hard to fathom that this is all the broken, jagged glass of a window in looking inside. And it's just really a strong way to frame this. And like they're still open for business, but they've got the shattered window. It's just really a fascinating picture. Next. And I like the angle that you've chosen for this to really show the whole line of people that are working on this and all the different things that they're doing to try and get rid of the graffiti. And it really shows that volunteer effort. Next. And this one was just, it was perfect to have that written on the mask. And it was good seeing on your part to pick up on that. I like the motion in her hand as she's scrubbing. So clearly, you know, people, just as many people that are doing the bad stuff, there are as many people that are good trying to undo the stuff from the protests. And so I thought it was a really good story. Next.
Fear, pain, sorrow, hope. Fear, pain, sorrow, hope. Fountain Grove, 2020.
I think the title is really strong, but if someone looking at this picture who knew nothing about what happened at Fountain Grove was looking at it, they would not understand it, partly because it's an emotional title, but it doesn't really explain the story. And in black and white, you don't know that the tree was burned. This tree could have died a natural death, and it's just an old snag. So it's not as storytelling as it could be, and yet I relate to what you're saying because I relate to Fountain Grove and being here. But it's something to think about when you're doing photojournalism stories. And of course, for the club, this is perfectly fine. Most people are going to get this. But if you were thinking about entering this into some competition that went way beyond California, nobody knew where Fountain Grove was or what it was about, they probably wouldn't get the story as well. So sometimes a color image, because it would show the black and charred tree, might be a stronger way to show that, or having the fear, pain part of it repeat, and then some other little tagline that explains a little bit more about like the burned out area of Fountain Grove or something like that would help. Next. Oh, I wanted to say that the starburst was a nice touch in that. I mean, I think graphically the picture is interesting, but it just doesn't, it doesn't tell the story that the title is trying to convey. Next.
Monochrome B, 5 images.
Gazing through dusty glass.
I liked this because it feels painterly. The dusty glass has just softened everything, and just the way the light is hitting the muzzle of the dog is just really great. And it's almost as if you painted the light on the dog while it was sitting there. So, but it was a fun picture, and it's a very intense gaze. You know, you feel like you're really going right into that dog's soul when you look in its eyes. But that cute muzzle in the light is what made it for me. Next.
Winter afternoon sunlight in the Central Valley. California Aqueduct, Vista Point, Patterson, California, USA.
It's interesting. I guess because of the bandwidth, the power line, the tension wire towers are fading in and out. So it's like a moving scene as I look at it here. I like the light on this. I think as a black and white, it works well. As you know, it depends on the time of year, whether you're going to have brown or green. And if it's just brown, then a black and white can often work a little better to just pick up on the contrast of the light. And it's just a nice overall study of the undulating forms of these coastal mountains. Next.
Focused. Sand mother and child at a sand gathering in rural Namibia.
And this one was also a powerful image for me. And they're listening to something. They're really concentrating on something that's going on outside of the frame. I'm delighted that there's room in front of both of their faces to not feel like they're crowded in the image. And the way the light is hitting them is unusual, but it really illuminated the child because it separated the child from the mom a little bit more because of that shadow and light, which I think really worked. And I think that the background was great in having this other woman looking somewhat in that same direction. So it's sort of echoing the woman that's in the light. In the shadows, there's somebody else. So there's a story outside of this that we don't know. But just as a strong black and white, I thought it really worked. Next.
Giraffe. Giraffa camelopardalis reticulata. Stops by for a snack at the feeding station, Living Desert Zoo, Palm Desert.
That was a mouthful. Good job. So in this picture, it's fun. And it's great that you can be up close and personal with them like this and not have to travel miles to do it. But a couple of things that aren't working. First off, the horns are cut off the top of the frame. And so it feels a little incomplete for me. And I'd either want to be in tighter yet, or I'd want to have the horns all in the frame. Just you're right at that point where it feels like they're awkwardly chopped off, like it was a mistake, an oversight. The second thing is the light is working against you. Now you do have some bounce light bringing in light into the shadowed side of the giraffe, but unfortunately the strongest light is on the feeding track tray or whatever you call that, and the light that's way in the background on the mountains or in the sky over the mountains. And that is pulling my eye away from the giraffe too much. So, and the fact that the giraffe is looking down at what might be food on the tray means that we don't see the eyes and we don't see the catch light very well. So it's a fun picture to get in that close, but think about the lighting. And, you know, if there was another way to get a shot like this from a different angle, that would have made this stronger. Next.
Agapanthus Skeleton.
This was a fun treatment of this, to do the multiple exposure or to do a long exposure and move it in between and let it sit. I've seen it done two ways. It gives it an X-ray feeling, which I thought was kind of neat to be looking at this, and very, very moody in the way it's displayed. So interesting concept, and really that's about all I can say on it. Next.
Monochrome 8 images.
Tiny tree frog.
You really get a sense of how small it is when you start to realize the size of a human hand, and that gives such impact to the picture. And I like that we can see the eye of the frog. You know, we're not looking at it as a profile now, we're looking down on it, but it's just got its head enough, you know, turned so that we get to see that eye and the stripe that runs along its body through the eye area. So I thought this was, you know, had a strong impact to it overall. Next.
Classical zigzag.
This was a good composition architecturally. It's got strong lines and angles, and it's created a lot of different shapes because of how you have composed it in the frame. The lighting is good. The detail in the shadow areas was held underneath the, I'm not even going to call it maybe it's a balcony up there, but you know, in the lower left area, we can see in there. So it's not just a dark black hole. And I think overall the picture was graphic and strong, and it works as a study in architecture. Next.
Zeus cuts loose.
I loved this picture. I love it still. But when I saw it, I thought, wow, because there is such wonderful drama in the clouds, so many layers, the texture that's in the sky, the depth that's in the sky because of the light and dark, and then just can't even speak, to have this expansive coastal view and have those two bolts striking where they did just fills the frame and balances it out, and it was just amazing. So well done on this. And if it was luck that you got the strikes, all the more better. If it was a lightning trigger, then that's great too. But if it was just pure luck that you managed to time it right, that's just super. Next.
Point Reyes Lighthouse, Fresnel lens, Point Reyes National Sea Forest.
This was a great subject for black and white. It really brings out the pattern of the Fresnel lens and just that whole repetition, and again, light and shadow and contrast. And sometimes in color, pictures like this don't work nearly as well as they do in black and white. And so I thought this felt very, very industrial to some degree. There's like metal and glass and you know, the almost scientific with the circular pattern in there. And it just had a lot going on in it that I thought really worked. Next.
Kitchen composition.
I love the simplicity of this. I thought it was a great job of creative seeing close to home. And that's in fact what I'm going to be speaking about for the London Photo Society in late October, because we're not getting out into the field as much. And so people are looking to their homes and any other place they might go. And I think this really worked. The thing that I wished was that there was a little bit more breathing room on the light switch plate. It's right up against the edge of the frame. And if you were to do a traditional mat on this, you would be cutting into that. So think about it as you're making your composition. If you think you might be putting a mat over something, you better leave yourself enough wiggle room that you don't cut into something that's precious. And if you didn't do an overlay mat, but you did a reveal, it's still really tight right there. So just, you know, on the screen here, I'm looking at, I would say just an 1/8 of an inch more would have made me feel better that it wasn't a, ooh, almost cut it off. Next.
The shot.
Nice timing on this. And I like that for the most part, they're all pointed up and looking up. And then there's this one guy that's kind of pointed his rifle up and he's looking straight out at something else. but that and the background guys, just that the timing was great to have a gap in the smoke cloud from the guns, that you could see those other riders going back off to wherever they were going. And so I think that worked really well in the overall composition. Next.
Get your kicks.
Yeah, and nobody's there. Everything's closed, shut, right? Oh man. And it is a story of the times. I mean, but this has so many things in it. The hand-painted sign of Lona's Treasures, you know, and the old style building and the lamps and the windmill down at the end and the cow sculpture on the roof, you know, all of that just was really part of the story here. And I think it's very interesting that there isn't a soul on the street, because that kind of, to me, speaks of the days gone by, that the days of glory on Route 66 are well past. And people are still trying to survive and keep a few shops open in certain towns here and there, but it isn't what it used to be. So, and I wondered about this compositionally. I kept looking at it, and while I like the idea at first of having the sign that's on the extreme right, that's in that cemented into that barrel, because sometimes including something close to the camera can really pull the viewer in, I started feeling like it was more of a distraction, and that I would be just as happy to not have that at the edge of the frame and have the building just be the edge and pull us down to see all of the other stuff, or to take a step back and or to the right a little bit, where you could have included that sign more, because it's really just stuck in the corner and my eye keeps wanting to go to it, and I really want to travel down the street and all that vanishing point perspective. Next.
After the storm, Yosemite Valley.
I really liked this image because of the glint, the wetness of the rocks, that really tells the story, and the steam that's rising, that orographic, I guess, mist or fog that comes up when you have the storms in the valley. And as a black and white, I thought it worked really well. I like the large pine tree and how it's juxtaposed with the steepness of the wall behind it. We kind of have a relative sense of how tall the oak trees and the pine tree is. So then we feel up partially with the compression that the telephoto gave you here, we feel the size of that cliff. And that's what Yosemite is about, is that grandness, that largeness of everything. Next.
Monochrome AA, 8 images.
Web of life, life shaped by the environment.
It's a great story. I actually just saw on the news, was it yesterday or the day before, that somebody had done a cell phone movie of a bison just like this, walking along the edge of the river, and it was completely covered in snow. They've had some really bad snowstorms, as many of us might know. And it's just ironic now, again, seeing this picture. It's just, it's happening as we speak. This is really lovely in black and white because it makes it more timeless. And there isn't a whole lot of color to an image like this anyway, when you look at the dark fir trees and the dark bison and the snow that's covering everything. So I think it really worked as a black and white, and it's nice to have a few ducks in the river as well. Next.
Water sculpture.
This one, I love the overall impact of the texture and the sort of pattern. My eye goes everywhere on it. I think from a black and white perspective, it may need a little bit more work to try and separate some of it out a little bit. In color, we have that trouble too. I mean, there's various shades or hues of red, brown, cream color, you know, orangey red and so forth. And a lot of those hues, when you convert to black and white, are the same tonality. And so sometimes a picture that has too much of the same tonality is hard to translate. So this foreground area especially, I felt like it was merging a little too much with what was in the middle and background, which I like a lot. So it may just be a process of hand manipulating to lighten that area or darken it or bring out the contrast in it or something a little bit more to try and make it separate from what's behind it. And I think that could make this a stronger picture. I love the viewpoint and the breadth of what you've covered. It's just that it's not separating very well in that foreground area. If you could call it a foreground, it's probably 1,000 feet below you. Next.
Standing against the onslaught.
I like the picture from a texture point of view and the story of the grasses being buried. What's interesting is that in black and white, it could be considered snow, a snowdrift, or it could be sand. And that leaves a little bit open to the imagination as a result, because I have seen snow that has that much texture when it's side lit. I'm guessing that it's sand. And the picture works. I mean, it tells the story about the shifting sands, or a shifting snowdrift is burying things, and yet they are standing upright and trying to survive that onslaught. Next.
Vertical at the Petaluma parking garage.
This really gave a strong feeling of height and the massiveness of the building by looking up. And it also had to do with the lights and the way the lights created the shadows of the railings on the left-hand side of the building. So it feels very, very powerful, very massive from this point of view. and the angle of view in which you shot. And I think as a black and white, it works really well because it's kind of that heavy industrial feel to it. Next.
A boy sits for his portrait. Montparnasse, Paris.
These pictures can be tricky to get because often you can't see what the artist is drawing if you can see the person that he's drawing. And so this one worked out really well, that you got to see a little bit of the drawing, enough with the eyes, and then to see the little child's face. And that's all we need to see. And the artist is anonymous, but you know, it's about that work and the fact that he is drawing the caricature of this child. And I think that it worked really well. What's interesting to me is that this is in Paris, and it's a young Asian child that is being drawn. And so it just kind of speaks to the fact that we get all over the world these days, and maybe that child lives there in Paris, or maybe they're just visiting, but it was just a broadening of the sort of world travel to me. Next.
Hottest and oldest, Yellowstone's Norris Geyser Basin.
I think this worked well as a black and white, again, because of the contrast and the backlit steam that is coming up off of the hot water. And I think that that shows really well when you take away the color, which again, unless it was grand prismatic or, you know, emerald pool or something like that that had strong color, sometimes the color in the ground isn't all that attractive. And then you've got dark green trees. And so a color shot doesn't necessarily work as well and isn't as dramatic as a black and white can be. So with putting the contrast up in this and having an interesting sky and the pano format, I think this worked really well. Next.
Teasel blossom.
It's otherworldly. It feels like a crown of thorns in a way, and sort of alien. And I like being in close to really look at it, because I don't think I've ever looked at a teasel that wasn't dried. So I was fascinated by this. The background right is a little distracting, and I don't know what it was and whether or not it would be controllable. Certainly after the fact, if you could darken that down some without changing the one leading light area that's coming off the teasel, I think that would help. Just because it is a line, also a rather wide line, and it's kind of crossing through that strong line that's coming off the teasel plant. So minimizing that would make this picture stronger. Next.
Shifting sands.
I thought this was really fun. Usually we're whining and complaining that somebody's walking on the dunes that we're trying to photograph and making a landscape without a person in it, you know? And here's somebody going, oh, that's cool, look at that. And okay, so the person is crawling up to the top, and now you have this nice pattern and a story, and you follow that all the way along to where they're crawling up the dune. And the fact that the footprints have created a landslide of sand has created a nice little ledge where it stopped. And so you've got this nice edging, and it's light and dark and pattern. And like I said, it just leads us to the person who ruined our landscape shot we had in mind, probably. But you went with it, and that was good. Next.
Monochrome Masters, 5 images.
Strengths or weakness.
Well, this is pretty abstract, and I liked it from that point of view, because, and it just did it again until it popped in a little bit sharper. It's the two pieces that are L-shaped somehow every once in a while I would look at it and they would blend with the one behind it. And it became very abstract that way for me. So then I'd have to kind of adjust my eyes, and then I could feel the tension between those two. And so I like the title because, you know, everything feels strong in the image because it's metal pipes and solid stuff and welded and so forth. And yet there's this break. And so that obviously makes the two pieces less strong. And so the weakness concept comes in there, which is fun. So, and I don't know all of what this is, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting view of an industrial subject. Next.
A tethered mare with her mistress, Folsom Street Fair 2016.
Well done. And good in black and white. I have a vision that this might have been a riot of color, which then can sometimes be rather distracting to see what was happening here. And I love how the horse's head, I love how they're both kind of looking the same way, and the height difference, you know, and everything just in general about the way they're staggered in the scene, and the background being blurred enough that it's the least distracting you could probably make it and still have these two people be in focus. And so I thought that worked well. Next.
A country childhood.
I liked the picture in general. But there were two things that I felt weren't working. And one is that there's camera shake or little boy shake. I'm not sure which it is, but your shutter speed was slow enough that you've got just enough disturbing motion in there that it added some blur and some sort of a shimmer. And that I felt took the strength of the image down. Camera shake usually does. And then he is looking not at you, but beyond you, like over your head. And so that took me back there as well. I wondered where he was. And it's somewhat of a blank stare. It's not, he wasn't connecting with you as the photographer. And maybe you didn't want that, but the end result, I think, is that it's too close to just being right over our heads. If he was going to not look at you, then having him look a little to his right, so left in the frame in this case, would have felt more natural and then somewhat of a candid feeling then. Next.
Faded Dahlia.
Really lovely the way it's presented. It's just floating in the black, but that keeps us focused entirely on the dahlia. And it may be fading, and in color we might be able to see that a lot more, but in black and white it just still shows a very strong form, excuse me, and the pattern of the blossom. And I like that if, you know, that you were going for as much symmetry as you could, and the square framing really accentuates that. So this is the kind of image that works to center it, because round objects and rectangular frames are awkward anyway. So if you've got symmetry happening, as you do here with a flower blossom, then it's really good to frame it and sort of center it up for impact. Next.
Shaft, Talat Noi, Bangkok, Thailand.
This feels so timeless, and it feels really old world, you know, like it's an old picture. And yet, you know, everything like that, everything, I should say, I'm not getting my words right tonight. Everything over there looks like this a lot because it's worn, weathered, and they're still using it, and they repair it and they still use it. And in black and white, that really shows that the oldness of everything and the weathered wornness of their stoves. The light coming in was just excellent, the way it raked across the hat. And you know, you couldn't ask for a nicer still life really to come across as you're walking around. It's a little tight on the left of the pan or whatever, that burner plate. I'd love to have a little bit more breathing room there, and I could do with a little less of whatever's piled up on the right if you just shifted slightly. And I'm talking just a little to give that a little more breathing room. Next.
Okay, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break.
Okay.
Pictorial B, 7 images.
Why me?
Okay, you're muted, Brenda. You'll have to unmute yourself. If I don't do it first, here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Good? You can hear me?
Yep.
All right, great, good. Okay.
Hi, I'm,
Oh, I should read this.
excuse me, this is Ronnie. Would somebody pay attention to an image that might be mine, because I'm on the phone with the doctor who did the surgery on my partner today, and I'm sorry for interrupting. Thank you.
Okay. Balloons landing at Sunrise, Napa.
And this said Becky sequence, which I know is not our last name, but the sequence is not a sequence, correct?
Correct.
As I recall when I looked at
Correct.
them the other day. Okay, great. So I wish that, I like the idea a lot because I think it's a neat story of what goes on here. And I just felt like the upper left sky area was really empty and I wanted more balloons. And I know that it's just, they're just, I forget now whether they were landing or lifting off, but they're so close to the grapes. And so it's just a matter of timing. If you could have had a little bit more separation and maybe then a few of them might have been filling up some of that space in the upper left in a perfect world, I think that would have made this picture work better. So you could crop it now and get rid of some of that empty sky space by coming in from the upper left, and so bringing it down diagonally in would take some off the left and some off the top. But I think that would still have the story for you and the picture would be a little better balanced without that bright sky area. Next.
Excuse me, but is anybody but me only seeing Brenda and no photo?
Anyone? I don't know if
I see it now. It was slow to come up.
it was, yeah, it was slow to come up.
See everything. There's been no problem for me.
Yes.
They're always there.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Versus gallery view.
All right. You want to read it?
Storm clouds gathering over the intersection of Main Street and Bridge Street, Everytown, USA, fall election 2020.
That's quite a title, really. But, you know, when you look, even without the title, if you're left to just look at the image, you know, you begin to say, wow, you know, nostalgic barn, and then you see Main Street and Bridge Street, and those could be anywhere USA. It's like every simple little rural town kind of thing. That being said, I felt like there was a lot of space in the upper right that was not adding a whole lot to the image for me, and the roof line with the wires and everything were kind of getting somewhat in the way. So I felt like this could have used a tighter framing and coming in from the right, upper right diagonally, or just coming in from the right vertical frame and bringing it in to close down on this a little bit would have had greater impact in showing us the old barn structure, and then Main Street and Bridge Street would have stood out more strongly. Next.
Laundry Day.
This was fun. I love the colors. and I like the watercolor painted feel of it. And yeah, overall it was fun, and it takes what would be an ordinary scene in the backyard of someone's house and turns it into an artistic interpretation, which is fun and colorful in this case. Next.
Sentinels.
I like this idea, and I felt that there was a powerful story here in that somebody planned on a really big house or a development or something that didn't happen, or maybe it had happened and it burned and now all this is just shrubbery coming back, because I don't know where we are and what we're looking at. The sun going down out there is kind of interesting because when it's that color, I often think of smoke. But unfortunately, what was really affecting this, the strength of this composition for me, was the graffiti on the pillars. And one might think, well, that adds to the fact that this has just been abandoned and left. And to some degree it does, but on the other hand, it also distracts because I start looking at the graffiti and reading the letters and so forth. So it's kind of a catch-22 and not much you could do about it. But it certainly has impact as a story of a dream that didn't happen or happened and faded away. Next.
Still life with Japanese teapot.
This was well done. It's got really lovely lighting on it, and just the way the light hits the apricots on the left, I believe they're apricots, and it's counterpointed with the light that's hitting the hydrangea blossoms. And I think the balance in it is really just overall lovely. I'm glad that the background is not any brighter than it is, because it would compete a little too much being the floral fabric that it is. So it's there and it's subtle, but it allows us to stay within the still life very well. And it feels very painterly, very realistic painting in this case, but it feels very painterly because of the light. Next. Excuse me.
Fast falls the eventide.
I love the light in this, the storm feeling to it, when you get that break in the clouds and you've got a lot of low angle to the light. And it just, especially in the farmlands, it just really has some drama. So overall, I felt that that really worked for the image. And yet the barn itself is pretty much centered in the frame, top to bottom. It's not exactly, and not exactly left to right, but it's still, the overall complex there, or compound, is pretty much dead center. And I felt like it needed to be put off center in some way to make this picture stronger. And I don't know what was happening on the left or the right to know which direction might be better if you were to shift so the barn moved left or the barn moved a little more to the right. Or maybe it would just come off center if you could crop it differently so that you would lose some of the bottom shade or some of the top sky. But it felt like it was just a little too predictably composed. No, sorry, next.
Hongo mushroom, curiously shaped landform in Val de la Luna, La Rioja province, Argentina.
This was well done, and it feels so otherworldly, and boy is it. And to have that Milky Way behind just adds to the whole thing. And the sense of scale is still a mystery to me, because I look at the back cliffs and I think, wow, they're really big. So then how big is this hongo mushroom thing? And what size would a person be in the foreground if they were standing there? So it feels vast and large, and and very alien and very effective. Next.
Pictorial A, 8 images.
Upstairs blues.
I like the graphics in this one. I thought that the repetition of all the lines really made the image have a lot of movement, especially because the strong single oblique line that's the rail of the stairs is in the central core of the picture. So that draws us up that staircase, and we see the blues and the greens, and just spatially, this worked for me as a really nice study of the graphics. Next.
Floral Twins.
This is abstract, and I like that you were playing with this idea, because we know that it's a picture turned on its side. My mind, it plays tricks with me. My mind wants to write it. So I don't know if somehow blurring the line where the one meets the mirror surface or not. I don't know what I would do, but I'm drawn to the fact that it's an image that was turned. And I don't want that to be the effect. I want to be looking at sort of the flowers and sort of the abstraction of it more. So it's a tricky picture, and I can't really say how I would improve on it. Next.
Hope for our future.
I like the title, and I'm assuming that it's referring to this young woman who is at perhaps a rally or something. What was interesting was that there was no microphone in the microphone holder. And so that alone made me wonder what is really going on here. So then the title didn't make sense to me because I don't really know what's going on in the picture. Next.
Steadfast.
Nicely framed, good solid repetition, the low angle, and the fact that you've intentionally not included all of the pillars and so forth, and the low position that you took to shoot straight across at them in that sense, even though they're on a diagonal, your height off the ground really brings us in to where we feel the weight of these, and we just feel the solidarity of all those pillars holding up something that's outside the frame. Next.
Speak to me.
A really fun concept. I loved this idea. And where all the pictures are showing up a little on the fuzzy side to me tonight in the transmission. I don't know why that is, but when I saw this on the web without being on Zoom, I was dismayed to see that there was camera shake. So it's not tack sharp on the bird or on the frog. There is a definite sense of camera shake, and that just changed the impact of the picture, but it's a really cute story idea. Next.
Long day's work.
Well, a dramatic sunset, beautiful. They always are when they're this colorful. And the picture would never work without something like this boat in there. Although I don't consider that work. It looks like they're out fishing, which to me would probably be pretty relaxing, but it is nice to have them in there, and they give a sense of scale to the vastness of the picture. So that helped the otherwise, beautiful but ordinary sunset. Next.
The most famous comet of the century.
Well, this feels like a poster. It's so surreal. And I recognize that it's the composite of things that did that, and the fact that the lake would never be that blue if you were photographing the comet for real. And it's all put together, designed to be, you know, surrealistic and futuristic, if you will. And I think it's well done for that. And a good job of capturing the comet. Next.
Sheltered.
I like this one. Just the odds of a floating sandal and finding that. And it's just, you know, here's this beautiful grass all around it. And then the waviness of the grass in the reflection makes it really lovely. And you could almost for a minute or half a minute or less, but you glance at it and you think that it's some tiny boat or something. And then you realize it's a sandal. And so I love the fact that the reality is it's a floating sandal, but surrounded by and protected by all of this grass was really fun. Next.
Pictorial AA, 7 images.
Space available.
Yeah, an unusual sight for sure. And I think this was well done. It really captures the story. I think the people where they are placed in the frame worked well from an impact point of view, and also that you've included enough repetition of all the umbrellas to really show us that they were the only ones on the beach. And that's the story. And the fact that the umbrellas are all the same color, I think really worked in this case so that the couple really stood out even more. Next.
Sign in the window.
I like pictures like this because they are that everyday seeing, walking around and just observing everything that's around you, and you never know what you're going to find. And I love just the rust on the corrugated metal. I liked all of that as part of a study in itself of the structure, and then to have the reflection in the window just added to it. And since the structure feels very industrial, having the roadwork ahead sign just sort of added to that whole industrial kind of feel to this. Next.
Triptych.
And this was an interesting treatment for this, and a fun way to sort of deal with, you know, spent flower blossoms, and that now you have this one that's fresh, that's the star of the show in the center triptych of the triptych, and you know, the picture's complete with the 2 side panels, but really it's more about the strength of that center panel that made this picture work. And I like the fact that it's not a perfect flower where everything's in bloom, you know, all at once. Many flowers don't do that. And so the fact that the rest of them are in various stages of decay and being spent makes that stand out even more. I feel like the 2 panel dividers that separate the middle one from left and right could maybe be a smidge thinner. That's a hard call to make. I would have to play with it. I feel, looking at the screen anyway, they feel wide to me, but that's the only thing that I would say, was maybe play with the space on that a little bit. Nice. Next.
Tranquility.
And this felt very painterly, and the pastels in it were very, very lovely. The silvery light on the water, the overall scale of the area that you included in the frame to make the boat look so small, just really made it feel calm and tranquil and peaceful. All of those good things. So good job. Next.
Late summer.
We should be eating that if it's an artichoke, right? Beautiful blossoms. They really are lovely. And I like how the bees are taking advantage of it. And it looks like there's a few more down into the center of it. And you know, just capturing them lifting off again with their pollen sacs is really fun. So this part of the image worked really well, but the background being sunlit was pretty strong. And you could certainly crop in a little tighter on this, maybe coming in a little bit on the left, but certainly on the top. In the top right section is so bright that if I cover it even just with my hand a little bit to try and minimize some of that, I find that the impact is stronger on the bees and the blossom. So remember that your eye's being drawn to the brightest part of the picture, and even though there's little bits of white in the flower that are bright, they're so small that the eye is now being drawn to that lime green of the other artichoke in the background. And so minimizing that would help us stay within the core of your subject, your intention. Next.
Ever have the feeling you're being watched?
This was pretty funny, and watched by the pigeon as well as by the elephant's eye, but the elephant's watching the pigeon and the pigeon's watching us, kind of. So it was sort of a neat movement of my eyes as I went around through this frame. So just a fun shot and a nice moment to capture something like that, humorous. Next.
A grandson loves his grandma.
I thought this was a nice treatment to really make the image monochromatic except for the flower. And I thought also it was interesting that it's a dandelion because we consider them weeds and, you know, non-essential in our lawns and so forth. But to a child, you know, it's a flower and they're not making a judgment call about its value in our lawn, and it's important enough and valuable enough to be able to give to his grandmother. And so I thought that was a really nice way to show that and illuminating the color of the flower and keeping everything else monochromatic. Next.
Pictorial Masters, 7 images.
Small delights, returning home from a week's wildfire evacuation, enjoying the smallest, most delicate things, safe in the gardens.
Yeah, powerful title for sure. I have never been evacuated, and I just, you know, by the grace of God, I can't imagine how it would feel. I liked what was happening in this image, and it is about the simplest things. And yet, as I looked at this compositionally, I felt that it needed to come in on the left and up from the bottom. The real story in here for me is the curlicue tendril and the little green fly that's on the leaf. And there's a lot of extra on the left and the bottom that isn't adding to the story. So I realized that you probably couldn't have gotten closer either by your lens not focusing or that you would have scared the fly off. So this was a good way to get the shot, but I think that it needs to be tightened up a little bit. And then once the fly goes away, another composition here would be just that beautiful tendril and the way it spirals down. If you did some work with that as well, that would be really, really nice. It's interesting that in the background, and it's funny, I keep wanting to point to my screen so that you can all see what I'm looking at, but that doesn't work on this. There looks to be like a praying mantis back there, right there. Yeah, yeah. It's so neat that there's like another bug within the scene. And it may just be leaves and stems, but it's kind of the ghost bug there. So next.
Ants on a showy milkweed bloom.
And this is really fun. Not only is the pattern and the structure of the milkweed blossoms are so lovely, and there's fuzzy textures in there, and it's just, that alone would be lovely, but to have the ants all over it really shows, it just tells a bigger story. and a bigger nature story. And I think that that's really neat. But what was important was to have the structure, the base of your picture, be a good pattern. So you've included enough of the milkweed tiny blossoms in there to establish that and make us feel like we're in the flower ourselves. And then, you know, in the impact area in the lower right part of the frame is where you've got the greater concentration of ants. And so that really worked out compositionally. Next.
Spring bloom.
I love the viewpoint and just showing how those sepals are going to break open and are going to let the flower emerge. Really like that aspect of it. I think that you've composed it far to the right because of that spider web that is attaching it to the left-hand side of the frame. However, I don't know that that's enough visually to hold the extra space that's on the left in the frame well, if that makes any sense. It feels very right heavy in the composition. And I think that the web isn't enough to balance it out. It needed to be maybe a dew-covered web or something that had a little more structure to it. I also wish, and it is changing a little bit as I look at it because of the bandwidth, I guess, in this Zoom thing, that parts are going in and out of focus. And now I'm not sure if the pink was in focus or not, because it's all out of focus at the moment as I view this. But I felt like that there needed to be a little bit more depth of field for the blossom itself, to be able to have the edge of the sepal, and that pink, which is so wonderful, definitely needs to be sharp. And maybe it is. As I said, now the whole thing is appearing to me sort of not in focus, so I can't really tell. Next.
A study in impermanence, the dancer and the flame.
I thought this was really a neat job of seeing and composing and or creating, if that's what you did. It's very moody and mysterious. The what I used to call a wishy as a kid, the seed head that has just sort of poised there, really feels like it's dancing and moving. And then there's just a lot of expression and gesture in that. And I really like that part of it. And then the flame in the background just adds this sort of mystery to the scene. I don't understand what's going on here, but it's vibrant and mysterious, all kind of wrapped into one. And I think that the light on the seed head at least holds its own with the light of the flame in the background, because it's separating out from the dark area behind the seed. Next.
Sight warning, an almost imperceptible swell appears moments before a huge wave rises up and sweeps away anything not tied down off the pier. Fence made for grabbing. Lake Michigan, Evanston, Illinois.
Well, it's without that title, we would not necessarily know what we were looking at. And so the title explains a lot. And it's a very structured picture in terms of just all of the, what you call the railing posts, leading us, creating this pattern and leading us out to that post that's got the beacon on it. Is it me, or is there on the right-hand side of the frame, as I'm looking at it, there seems to be a curve in the horizon?
Yep.
There is.
Yes.
For you too. Is that an imperceptible wave? I wondered about that when I noticed it. I didn't know what to do. But what are the odds that you would catch that on the film? But I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting that shows the way it does up on the screen. So again, very structured. you know, a very formal composition to this. And again, the title at least is necessary to kind of know what's going on with it. Next.
My backyard harvest.
Yum. And well done. I mean, it's just, it's composed well and it's arranged well. And that can be tricky. And I think all of it works really very well to make it look delectable. And the colors are saturated and the light is nice on it. You know, it's intense, but it's right for it. It feels like the summer sun has been ripening all of this. And yeah, so that works for me. There's a few things on the background that I don't know if they're reflections or what, but if you're going to drop your background away so that it appears to be floating like this, then you want to make sure just up at the top of to the right of the left apple, there's a few light spots, and then to the right of the right apple, there's another little light spot, and they kind of draw you back and make you wonder what they are. So I would darken those down. Next.
Autumn sunrise, Morrow Lake.
It's a beautiful sunrise. This is the kind of picture that I consider to be a sort of passive recording of what's happening and not really engaging me as the viewer to where I feel like I'm truly there. Now, you do have foreground in the picture, so that helps to put me there on the shoreline with you. But I think that it's not a real exciting foreground. And I think that it would have been stronger to put a few more bits of tufa, either the silhouetted ones getting closer to them in the left, or going towards the right where the beach sort of curves to the right. There's a couple of pieces of tufa there, and perhaps you could have incorporated those into the foreground a little bit more to act as a visual stepping stone into the others and then into the background itself. Next.
Travel B, one image.
Postcards from Padstow. Padstow during the summer is a busy fishing port in Cornwall, England.
I like the way the light is coming in and spilling on the boat and hasn't yet hit town. So it's either morning or late evening, but it has that kind of, you know, beginning or end of the day feeling, and that angle of the light just spotlighting that boat makes the picture really nice. And also just that you had a nice reflection. So I think it gives a good sense of place, partly the structures, partly perhaps the style of the cars and the style of the boat can help to tell a story in terms of giving a sense of place. Next.
Travel A, 4 images.
Azure Beauty. Paddle boarders are enjoying the clear azure water on Lake Tahoe. This iconic blue color is created by a low concentration of algae in the water.
Well, I thought this picture was a nice travel story, and it made me want to jump right in, actually. It looks so nice and refreshing. And the fact that they are close enough to be considered a unit, you know, we follow one along to the other. The rocks tell a story about perhaps more about, you know, being close to shore. I love that we can see in the water to the rocks underneath them. And there's just enough light on the girl on the left so that she's not like in the shade. And so she's part of the scene and emerging sort of out of the shady area. So I thought this picture really was well done. Next.
Bryce Canyon National Park in southern Utah offers innumerable photographic opportunities.
And I would agree with that entirely. It's an incredible place. I do like that you've chose to include this tree in the foreground. The idea being to give depth to the scene and have us feel like we're right there with you. However, it's just far enough away that I don't feel like we've engaged with that tree. I don't feel close to the tree or the scenery behind. So I would tighten this up a bit if it were possible to get closer to that tree and make it a little bit larger in the frame. I think that would be very helpful. Also, that would eliminate some of the problem that you have in the sky, that with a high layer and then the lower cumulus layer, you've got this blending that is making the upper part of the picture just not very exciting. And so a good, on my screen, I'm looking at a 27-inch monitor, I would say a good 2 inches could come off the top and still make this picture work and actually make it work better, because we're kind of getting lost in that area up top where there's just nothing happening. So the light just wasn't working well for you in this particular instance. But you can work with what you have and try to tighten up the shot to make it as strong as possible and work with what you have. Next.
Golden Evening.
This is well done. It's really got strong contrast of color and a pleasing color. The orange against the blue is really lovely. It's harmonious, and the structure is so strong, and there's a sharpness to everything in the background, and the image just, it really works. It's got a tremendous amount of impact and a good sense of place. And I'm still puzzled by what these tiny little lights are off to the right that are in between some of the cables, because they look like they're just in the sky, and they've been a mystery to me. But you know, the scene in general, just, it really says San Francisco and Golden Gate Bridge really well. Next.
Watercolors. Bridal Veil Falls is one of the most prominent waterfalls in Yosemite Valley. With high spring runoff and the perfect lighting conditions, the rainbow appears.
Yeah, and it's well done. The rainbow is really beautiful. I don't know if you used a polarizer or not to intensify that, but certainly for those of you that might not know, using a polarizer can either eliminate the rainbow completely or it will intensify it. And sometimes you'll get a faint rainbow and you can make it look much better by just using a polarizer. So, and sometimes you don't need that because the rainbow is intense enough. So I just thought that this was a classic, pretty picture of the falls. Next.
Travel AA, 3 images.
Bengal tigers roam as apex predators in Ranthambore National Park, a former royal hunting ground that is now a wildlife preserve. Animal viewing is possible by Jeep tour, Rajasthan, India.
And really a wonderful opportunity to see them. I've not been there, but I know that people that have come back so excited to have seen these cats. And it's really a nice composition. I feel like it's emerging from the brush and the bush, and how lucky that it's emerging out into the open. And so you don't have a big branch across its face or its body, and half of it isn't invisible in the brush and half is. So just a really lucky opportunity, and well done. Also good timing in terms of the gesture of the walking with one of the paws up, better than if they were just all 4 on the ground. So that says it's moving. And it has a good overall sense of place to the picture. Next.
A solo kayaker paddling the 3.5 miles from Navy Beach to the barren moonscape of volcanic Pauha Island is treated to a night of utter solitude with just the Milky Way for company. Mono Lake, California.
I thought this was well done and well conceived, perhaps. But just enough light in the tent to draw our eyes down to it, but to really let the magic of the Milky Way be the story. And what a wonderful experience that would be. I wouldn't be in the tent. I'd be sleeping out under the stars. It's so pretty. But having the tent in there really tells the story and gives a nice sense of place to the whole thing. Next.
The village of Monsanto, Portugal, is built on a mountain strewn with huge granite boulders. The locals make use of them by walling up the space between them to form walls for their houses.
It's a great story and a good sense of place in this. I love villages like this, and it makes me think of the Lord of the Rings and I can't remember the hobbits and their houses, but, what an ingenious idea to just, bridge the distance between the rocks and carve out a home inside. I would love to be in there to see what that's like from the inside. And they make it beautiful with all the potted geraniums and flowers all around it. So it's their special place, called their place called home. And I think this really tells that story nicely. Next.
Travel Masters, 5 images.
Two little girls stand in front of their home in a small rural village in the Middle Atlas of Morocco. Even the most rural communities have schools within the village where children can learn.
Well, the title about standing in front of their home, fits. The part about the having schools doesn't fit because they're not in a school environment. So I think you could probably lose that part of the title. I think it's important that they have schools, but since we're not looking at the school and that this is the house, then I think just having the part about the home works. I like the little girl peeking out. I don't quite know what she's holding. It's either a plate or a sword, but she just has this curiosity, and it's just good timing on the photographer's part to capture that moment when they're both looking at you and that little one is so curious in the way she's leaning out. So, and enough of the details of the architecture to give us a sense of place. Next.
Samburu warriors gather at dusk for chanting and fun before making their rounds to maintain security for the livestock. Testing who can jump the highest is a regular competition among warriors. Kenya.
This was a really good story, great sense of place, good timing, getting the two of them off the ground. They don't even look like they've made an effort to get up there, and that just blows my mind. And I have not witnessed this in person, but I hope that I will someday, because I can't get myself 2 inches off the ground. And I know it takes a lot of muscle practice, and building, but it's a great story. And just in general, the way the rest of them are clapping and engaged really helps to tell the story here. Next.
The mahout gives commands to the elephant with his feet, keeping his ankush hook ready. A mahout bonds with a young elephant early in life, and they remain together for years. Thailand, 2019.
I thought this had real impact because of the eye in the elephant and because of the mahout's foot that's sticking out. And as we look more, we see the hook and the chain, and it's a bittersweet story. They have a relationship with these working elephants, and it's a deep bond, and it might not be something that all of us agree with in terms of using wild animals and having somewhat tamed them for their purposes, but it's that culture. And I think that this really captures the impact of their relationship and tells a bit of that story in a very strong way. Next.
Established in 1929, the Grand Teton National Park attracts over 3.4 million visitors a year. One reason for the popularity is because it is hard to take a bad image there.
Well, I don't know. I've taken a few woofers there. You know, it all depends on the good light. And you had good light in this picture, whoever took this. So this is beautiful light, and it's majestic with the mountains and the lake. You know, everything is really pretty, but it's still what I'd call a postcard picture. So I encourage you to try to go beyond that. And that's hard if you're traveling, and especially if you're traveling with family, and all of a sudden you kind of come around the bend and you come to a lookout and there's this gorgeous sunset that's developing. What do you do with it? You know, this is about all you can do with it. You can use some of the foreground trees and, you know, give a little bit of framing and so forth and just celebrate the beauty. But if you have a sense by looking at the weather in the sky that something could develop, then maybe you could encourage the rest of those traveling with you to get to a spot where you might be able to utilize all that beautiful color in a more, you know, a powerful composition, a more commanding way, or at least getting there early enough to figure out what you might be able to do in a composition when things really start to go ballistic, because it might not last long. Next.
A Taiwanese street seller selling candied plums on a busy street in Tonsui, north of Taipei City. Candied plums are a favorite snack in Taiwan.
It's interesting, for all the chaos that is in this picture, all the signage, all the wires, all the people, and it still works. The candied plums thing sticks out so strongly because it's different and it's close enough, and it's that vibrant red, and the repeating little balls on it really draw our eye to it because it stands out as not being a human being in the crowd. And it gives an incredibly strong sense of place with everything that's going on in this picture. Well done. Next.
Non-competitive, 3 images.
Due north.
I love the movement in this. I love the graphics and how you've chosen to position yourself to use that cable to draw us up towards that upper, what looks like a sail, you know. It just, all of the lines, everything just works really well in this. And I think it works very well as a black and white as well. But I really like that the cable, because it has the spiral effect to it, brings us in and sort of wraps us around as we're moving up towards that background point. Good job. Next.
The Walbridge fire triggers PTSD once again.
Well, while we might not recognize PTSD happening in this individual, I get it by the title. But what is impactful here is just the fact that someone, you know, is standing in a residential area and looking at a major, major fire that is not that far away. And that itself is a story. It gives not so much a sense of place, again, to those that live outside the area, but certainly to all of us, there's a sense of place to it. But it still has, in a timeless way, it has that impact that at any time, you know, we could be encountering this personally. And so I think the picture really works and tells a story in that way. Next.
The McCloud River's Middle Falls is a peaceful place to visit in Siskiyou County, California.
These remind me somewhat of Bernie Falls, just because of the geological structure, the volcanic structure that they fall over. This is really lovely. It's well done under the lighting. It's not high contrast. It would never work except in open shade or cloudy daylight. So that is really nice. The shutter speed is nice to give movement to the water and yet still allow some brushstroke effect to be in there, some texture to show up. And I think that works really well. Having not been there, I don't know what challenges you face in the foreground. I am glad that you've included some of the rocks that are right there, because that at least puts me at that edge with you and I feel more engaged in the scene, short of, being in the water, which might not have been possible, or getting any closer might not have been possible. So I think those really work. And just looking at the overall scene in general, I think it gives a good sense of place. It's a nice landscape and it's done very well. I think that was it on the 3, right? Next. Me. Oh, you want to critique me?
We'll take a 5 to 10 minute break and then, okay. Journalism B, 3 images. First, whoop. Didn't come out in order. That's the first. Just a moment. Okay. Honorable mention, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. I learned a lot tonight. I really appreciate all the comments. Bill invited me to a polo match, my first one. I just thought it was really interesting and lots of action. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cool. Good job.
Yeah, we can all get to clap because we're in, we're all unmuted now.
Second place.
No, third place.
Cool.
Oh.
Oh, thanks a lot. And I get your point about this first picture. Yeah, let me think about it, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Exciting.
Good job, Joe. Nice images.
Yeah.
Were you on a boat?
No, I was not. This was back in 2012 when they first started this.
Yeah.
Because the boats are only 44 feet, the course was small, and you can just stand on shore and get great shots.
Oh, good.
And when they upsized to the, I think they're like 70 foot is what the America Cup's boat were, but they expanded the course by at least double the size of the course. And yeah, it changed the whole effect.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Looks like you were there.
It was 55 to 200 millimeters. And yeah, great shots.
Oh, cool.
I was there too.
Oh,
Let's see. And first place, Pat.
Thank you so much. I was on the beach, watching these whales come up, and I shot these images and heard the story about the kelp gulls, and they're very aggressive, and it has affected the mortality rate of the calves, sadly.
never heard of that.
Great story.
Oh.
Nice shots. Nicely done.
Yeah, wonderful story.
Great.
Congratulations. Now I'm going to go to the next category, and hopefully it won't show first place. I'm using all the same settings I do in all the other ones, so we'll see.
You do a great job, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
Journalism A, one image.
This will be easy.
There's only one image. Chicago.
Only one was entered. Right.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I agree with that. So much.
Beautiful and awful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful and awful.
Thank you so much. It's just about it's about 300 or 400 mil, and I took it about from Jimtown location.
Wow, nice capture.
Very nice.
Capture.
Very nice.
Very strong.
Congratulations. Journalism double A, flower images. And it did it again. Okay, honorable mention, Bill.
Well, thank you very much. I originally submitted this bee sequence in Nature and was quickly reminded that honeybees are considered feral and domesticated, and so it couldn't be submitted to Nature. And instead of taking one image for Pictorial, I decided to pull it back and resubmit it a few months later in journalism. And that meant bringing in the picture of the beekeeper, Taya Fearling, who I met a few months ago when we had a bee swarm in our front yard, and she came and took care of it for us. And then later, when the poppies came out, she called me to come take pictures of her poppies because the bees were going crazy. So that's what led to this
That's a good
sequence.
Cool.
Great capture.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Honorable mention,
It's part of the same.
I'm sorry, let's see. I have to actually scan around here a little. Okay. Third place. Trisha.
Right.
Nice.
Nice sequence.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. I agree with them all. The thing about the Grand Canyon is people don't understand that underneath these edges, there's erosion that makes them very unstable, and you can just drop if you go out to the edge. So when I read that from the National Park website, I was just stunned, and I had all these images of people who were standing right on the edge. So journalistic story to warn people about.
And my suggestion of you stepping off to the left probably would have been.
No. I'm not going to do that.
All right, Brenda.
I like that a lot. Nice job. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good series.
Good, Trisha.
Good job.
That was before she fell over.
Second place. Gary.
That was kind of an interesting series with the lightning coming, getting woke up in the middle of the night to a lightning storm. And so I needed to take some pictures, but you'll laugh because I learned a long time ago, if you don't have your tripod handy, you can push your camera against a post or a wall and you can hold it really steady. So this, like you can see, what was this F11-400, a half a second. So what I kept doing is holding it against the jamb of my door out on my front door while I was in my pajamas, taking, anywhere from a half a second to 10 or 20 seconds, and just keep going. And then while it was in that long exposure, all of a sudden a burst of lightning would come up and I'd shut it off and do it again for a half hour. My arm got a little tired.
It's amazing, actually, that in a half second, I mean, usually by the time we see it, it's too late. We've missed it, right? It's so fast. So you were just hitting and hoping it happened while you were exposing. But
I think I had it on bulb.
Yeah.
I had it on bulb, and then if I got a flash, I'd let it off real quick and then do it again.
Oh, good. Yeah,
yeah.
Because, we got up, we watched the whole thing from our porch. Yeah. And I was so stunned, it didn't even occur to me to grab my camera, and I really wish I had now, because we saw all the lightning strikes that caused the Wall Bridge fire.
Oh boy.
We saw them all, and it never dawned on us that was going to cause that, It's just, oh, man.
Yeah, and then these images up, I had been up there a couple months ago in June, and I liked this rock, and then I took some other pictures and stuff, and I thought, you know what, go up there and maybe I can find that rock and see what it looks like after the fire, or if it did burn. And so we just took a ride up there, and there's a safe place to pull over in that right there. So it just, I thought that was a good comparison on the damage that can be just done to our environment, not to mention homes or businesses or whatever.
Right.
Good idea.
God.
Thank you.
Powerful.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Congrats.
First place. Michael.
Michael.
Killer capture.
Thank you very much. I don't know, I can't see myself, so
There you are.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
It's kind of an interesting story. The day before I took this photograph, we were also having lightning. And I went out to a place, I had a tripod and ND filters and did my best to get some lightning shots by setting long exposures and hoping for the best. I got a couple, but nothing that was really great. So the next morning I went out thinking, oh, there won't be any lightning. I'll just walk around town, see if I can find a photograph. And as I'm driving across town to get to downtown Petaluma, the lightning starts going crazy. And of course, I only had my camera and fortunately I had a tripod. So I drove into the parking garage downtown because it was pretty scary, as you can see. And I kept taking, I probably took 300 photos, as long as I could take it. It wasn't very light out, which was good. So I could set longer exposures, but I kept pushing the shutter button. And as it moved to the left here in the photograph, the color in the sky was just amazing. We had pinks and blues, and it was just an incredible morning. I have a number of photographs. But thank you very much. And I want to thank Tony for talking me into putting it into journalism. I was going to put it in Pictorial. Thank you.
Did you use a filter on that?
I don't remember. I don't think so. But it was a 6-second exposure, as you can see. And I just kept pushing the button. And this was one of the earlier ones that I got. As a side note, the company down in the bottom left there, Solarius, they contacted me the next day and bought the raw file for a undisclosed sum.
Very good. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Turned out pretty-
amazing.
It was a great day. And thank you.
How did they know about the picture?
I put it on I Love Petaluma, the website, Facebook post, and they follow that. So
What a smart move that
I got
was.
lucky.
Good for you.
Wow, nice.
The logo looks like it's lightning.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
I'm going to reset real quickly. Go ahead and keep talking.
Mike, I want to ask you, were you outside when you took those shots?
No, he's in the parking garage.
I was in the parking garage up on the second or third level. I don't remember, but I was inside under the concrete, fortunately.
You're very lucky.
That makes sense.
No, I didn't want to stand outside.
No.
I saw all those pictures and wondered how many people were standing outside.
Yeah, it's foolish. As it moved on, I did go up to the rooftop and got a few more, but it was safer at that point.
When it started up, I told Joel to go outside and get the umbrella, which I
you liked him.
Yeah, Joel, I hope you didn't do that.
Oh yeah, I did it, and it was the highest spot in the yard. And I'm telling her, Tricia, this is the highest spot in the yard. So she comes out here and says something to me, and I bump into her, and I almost trip over the table. It was a comedy of errors.
Funny. We were
Hold your
trying to
tripod
keep
up higher next time. It's good lightning rod.
Yeah.
Now, maybe some of you, I don't have an answer to this. Is carbon fiber conductive?
Yes, it is.
Probably
is.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, hi.
Because I was thinking aluminum tripods, okay, piece of cake. Of course, you know, it could still strike us. But the carbon fiber, I wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Probably less conductive.
And in fact,
aluminum would be.
I suspect it's part of the reason why we're conductive, because we're, you know, carbon and water and
Right.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Steve looks stressed.
You know, we were talking about people in Zoom. So, you know, Trisha's taking classes and I listen in sometimes. And young people, when they come to class on Zoom, talk about they don't get out of bed. They're still in their pajamas. It's like,
Earrings and everything, you know?
Who cares what happens when the shoulder's down, right?
yeah.
It's the only time I get to wear makeup.
Right. And the truth is, I mean, I have mascara on. Can you all tell that?
Oh, yeah.
We look real close.
Yes, you missed the spot.
Yeah, right. Thanks.
Okay, I think I've got it fixed. Let's give it a shot.
Thanks, Steve.
Journalism Masters, 3 images.
Oh,
Honorable mention, Liz.
yeah, I guess I was kind of voyeuristic in this. Sorry about shooting people and having them wonder what I'm doing, but this is off my front porch.
Oh.
There's torches around, so
Yeah.
anyway, that was cute.
Everyday life.
It's still a good story. Yeah, but vertical.
Arcana.
Vertical might have done a clean, you know.
There
Yeah.
you go. Thanks. No, all your comments were really good, Brenda. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations. Second place, Harry.
Yay.
Well, you know, the funny thing about this is that this was just before the realization of what the COVID pandemic was.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, should we or shouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then going ahead thinking, well, you know, we'll just all be very careful. I don't even know if people were wearing masks at that point.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, no, it didn't. None of my pictures show masks, so I'm assuming not, but it'll be one we'll remember, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it's just a wonderful place to take photos, not this year, maybe not next year, but at some point.
It's absolutely clear.
Yeah.
This is, I think, my 3rd one. So I've learned a lot in the 3 years, and gotten to know a lot of people. And for me, that's the whole secret, is getting to know the people and talking and hearing stories.
Yeah, and you get more comfortable. You're more comfortable in the environment, and some people may even recognize or remember you, and you build a little bit more of a relationship or a comfort zone, which really helps in terms of getting in close, you know.
Exactly, and I send them all photos, which they've appreciated.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
They are friendly enough to where one time I asked and I was able to practically get my camera on the guy's shoulder, over his shoulder, 14 millimeter, and got a beautiful shot.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very open about you taking photos.
Really good. Huh. Good.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Nice, Terry.
Yeah, well done.
Nicely done, Terry.
First place,
Oh,
Tamara.
yeah.
Wow.
Are you here tomorrow?
I'm taking notes for her. She's at the Ho or somewhere at the coast of the Olympic Peninsula.
Oh, wow.
Getting away from the bad smoke there.
Good job.
Powerful series.
Great.
Great shot.
Wonderful
Very
series.
cool.
Favorite.
Good finds.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Very good.
Good seeing.
Mhm.
I love that one with the glass and this one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Max.
This way. Moving hand. Wow.
The motion of the hand.
Yeah, the motion really helps.
Congratulations. Monochrome B, 4 images. Honorable mention, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Nice.
Cool.
This was my first multiple image creation that I did with my new camera. I'm still working on it. but thank you. I have a whole front yard full of Agapanthus, and honestly, I don't remember any of them ever drying like this, but this one was there, and I just loved the way it looked. So,
Cool.
thank you.
We never see them like this because the deer chomp them all off just about the time the buds are coming out.
That too.
Congratulations. Third place. Pat.
That is so beautiful.
That's really cool.
Nice image, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Very good.
point-
Rural Namibia. Hard to find the place. Not much direction even. Luckily, we had GPS beyond. Anyway, it was a wonderful place to go.
Neat.
He looks so
Beautiful.
thin.
He is.
Great
Yeah.
capture.
Great. And the depth perception.
Yeah.
Woman behind is great too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you use a flash?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, you did a good job with that because
Great
it
job.
looks like sunlight just hitting her from the side.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place. Mark.
Oh, I love it.
So beautiful.
Check out Pluto Living.
Yes. No, Pluto. Oh my God.
This is our miniature Schnauzer, and I, honestly, I went out back to take other pictures, and I saw him looking at me through the sliding glass door, and I just thought the light did some interesting stuff. It was just purely an accidental shot, to be honest.
That's great.
Really fun.
That muzzle is wonderful. Light.
Mark,
But the sharpness, somehow it did something with the sharpness on the muzzle, as you noted. What
Yeah.
was the question? I'm sorry.
Mark, do you follow Pluto?
No,
Pluto Living?
no.
Check
Right
him out on
Facebook.
YouTube.
I'll check it out.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, interesting.
This looks like, why did you go out without me?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good stare down.
Yeah. You're not kidding.
Yeah, and honestly, on this stuff, you can't tell if you like it because you like the dog or you like the photo. So I wasn't sure how this would turn out. But
I like the photo.
That can be
The nose and the hair are clear.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
thank you.
First place. Joel.
Oh, very good.
Thank you very much. This is from, there's a vista point down as you go from towards down I-5 basically by Patterson, and the hills are beautiful, and I think I've taken a number of shots, but this one I just felt, well, maybe this would work, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, again. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say that I have driven by that vista so many times, and I don't think I've ever gone up top because I'm always like, I got to get somewhere, and now I'm going to go check out that vista the next.
You'll be on the road.
It's really great. There's lots to see up there.
Yeah, cool.
Congratulations. Monochrome A. 4 images. Honorable mention. Rick.
Oh, thank you.
Love this.
I was just messing around in the kitchen, and I like this. There's actually not a lot of room on the other side of that light switch. Unfortunately, there's a a splash guard from the it's right up against it. So maybe I just ought to cut off that edge a little bit, like the paper towels are cut off. I don't know.
You could add canvas.
Yeah, I'd add canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably could add canvas. It's pretty straightforward, even though you'd have to be, if you added it all the way down that side, it would replicate the knife holder and the texture of the wall, and that might work. It's tricky because it's so close.
Yeah.
But either way.
It's a wonderful image. I love it.
Yeah.
Very much.
I kind of liked it. It actually looks better than our kitchen looks, I think.
You can almost see a reflection in the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blew that way up and
Very cool.
there's a reflection, but you can't tell that even that it's a photographer.
That's
But
cool.
thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Honorable mention, Ellen.
Yeah, well, Civil War Days, Duncan Mills, which didn't happen this year. This was a couple years ago.
2018. Very nice.
Very cool.
Great how they're all crowded in.
Yeah.
And they're all shooting up at something. Some
Nice
big bird.
capture.
Poor duck.
Geese.
The introduction volley, right?
They're
And
after
I love
pterodactyls.
Trio of horse and rider that's right in that little open spot. That was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well themed. You take lots of shots, and one of them, one might work.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Second place, Gustavo.
I like it.
Okay, yeah, this was the Point Reyes National Park had an Instagram meetup for what would have been the sunrise, but it was really foggy and I think sometimes gets in Point Reyes, so they allow us to visit the lighthouse, and they opened up the top portion of it so we could go up on top and actually take a photo.
Cool.
And this was actually with a kit lens. It was just a really basic kit lens from an Olympus EM5, and it was ISO 500
Very nice.
and 1/60th of a second at a f4.
Wow.
Nice.
Very good.
Nice sharpness at that. F4.
Thank you.
Congratulations. First place, Steve.
Oh,
I struggled with this image. This was the day we had that early morning lightning, probably when Mike was out there and a number of people. But I live in Guerneville. This is at Jenner. And as soon as the lightning started, I dragged my sore, sick ass out of bed and threw stuff in the car and drove out there. And I was thinking to myself, oh man, it's so far away. So this is a massively cropped with a 600 millimeter zoom lens.
Wow.
I took over 200 shots, just like every few seconds, and trying different settings and stuff. And I'm like, on the image, I couldn't even see the lightning on most of the shots. I'm like, I'm sure I got something, but I have no idea.
Wow.
So it was a ridiculous amount of work just trying to come up with, I think I got 4 shots that actually had good lightning. And I did one composition where I put all 4, because they were lined up, that light spot on the far left near Goat Rock. There was one there in that bright spot, which was barely visible. And then between that other lightning and the coast, there were like 4. And I stuck them all in at one point with a color shot and went, yeah, doesn't cut it. So anyway, talked to Nancy, and I can't tell you how many people are talking and scratching my head and trying to decide which way to go, and ended up going with this and cropping. So got a lot of work went into this one. So thank you very much. And it's that lightning was not in that shot at that point. It was over a little bit, so it's actually a composite and very carefully edited for the lightning because it looked pretty blurry. I had to actually go and paint sections of it to try and kind of restore it. So I spent a lot of time on the lightning, and then I took an enlarged image and then worked on it in fine detail, and then made it smaller, and then put it back in there. So that's probably
Holy cow.
25 hours worth of work to get that.
Wow, Steve.
one of my
Great image of Steve. But I'm glad it was appreciated, and thanks for the comments and the help.
one of my favorite parts is the bones on the beach.
Yeah.
Wood
Yeah.
bones.
Exactly.
It looks like relics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a hell of a picture without the lightning.
Yeah, yeah.
Title too.
You should see. I mean, I have so many sky shots out there, you know, without the lightning that are still great black and white shots. I have probably at least 8 or 10 really, really good ones. But this is one of the earliest ones. And you know what got me? I came home, I looked on Facebook. There was a lady that posted copyrighted images from Jenner. When I was getting up, within 5 minutes of when I got up, she was out there taking pictures, and the lightning was right there close. And she had the most dramatic, incredible images. Nothing great for foreground. She just went outside and took pictures. But it's like, if she had gone down where I was at and taken the pictures, I mean, if I had been her, been that timing, oh my God, would have been unbelievable. Anyway, I'm lucky I got what I did.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
congratulations, Steve.
Thank you.
Love the title, Steve.
Monochrome AA, 6 images. Honorable mention, Mike.
Very
Thank
cool.
you. This is from one of my early morning walks around Petaluma. 3 days a week or so, I go down there and cruise around and see what I can find. I had a tripod with me early, and I said, well, this looks kind of interesting, and I worked it for a while, and I like the shadows and the things that you mentioned, and so thank you for recognizing that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Love the light.
Congratulations.
Mike, very
Nice.
Honorable mention, Gary.
Oh, yep. This was one of those about a year ago. We were in Yellowstone, and there at Norris Geyser Basin, we found that if we get up early, real early, and then this is in the fall when it's cool early like that, that the steam coming off all the geysers is just really neat. And they're just, you know, you can't go wrong. You can just find all kinds of really interesting scenes with the steam coming up and that sort of thing. And so I thought I would try that as a pano with the black and white and see how it came.
Nice.
Great.
Nice.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats, Gary.
Honorable mention, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
That is
Oh, there he is. Hi, Bob.
Hi, hi. I haven't been around for much this season, but I'm back.
Yay.
You can tell from the date, this was on the first club field trip when we were all sheltering in place.
Yeah.
And we were told to go out, you know, and walk around and see what we could find. And there's a weed patch with a lot of teasel about a half-hour walk from my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I'd go up there and see what they looked like. I'd like to photograph them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I found this one and I was able to position myself with a dark background at a distance. And, you know, I like the gesture, the texture, and the color was not very interesting. So I switched it to black and white. Showed it to Tony Raines in one of his critiques, and he suggested squaring it up, which I did. And this is the result.
Great.
beautiful.
Nice, Bob. Nice to see you back.
Nice.
Nice job.
Very nice.
I like that it's got a blue-black. Your tone is really not just, it's not warm black, it's a cool black and white.
Yes.
And I like that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried different tones. I'm glad you picked up on that. And this was the one that I liked too.
Yeah, it makes it silvery. Yeah.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Bill.
Oh,
I don't think Bill's with us.
Not here tonight?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Boy, what a
Congratulations to Bill. Second place, Herb.
Oh, I love that.
I love this.
Wonderful image.
That's great.
Awesome.
This was with my wife, as always, hiking in the foreground. This is actually Eureka Dunes in Death Valley.
I thought that was Eureka.
Huh.
And because of the high moisture content, they're also the booming dunes. So you can go up there and jump on them and you get this real low frequency rumble that goes through the whole thing. That's what we were initially doing up there, and I considered it as a travel, but I thought it worked better as a monochrome submission. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Great invention.
Did the jets buzz you while you were there?
Detail.
They always buzz.
Right?
Well, Herb, you have such an eye. I mean, you
Yeah,
blow
you
me
do.
away.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
lovely.
Another special image. Great job.
Great job. Thank you.
Congratulations. First place, Jennifer.
All right.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
All right.
This is Yosemite and Winter. And I just, it's got to be one of my favorite places. I'd love to go back another winter. And
Yosemite?
it was cold, but beautiful. And I loved that this river was warm. And so mist came off it and it frosts everything. You could see some of the sticks and stuff, but also the bison and the trees and everything gets a little coating of sparkly snow.
What river is that? Do you remember?
I think it's the Madison River.
So you're in Yellowstone then?
In Yellowstone, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought you said
Yeah.
Yosemite.
You can go off the cold.
Yeah, well, anyway, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Composition.
Nice, Jennifer.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Monochrome Masters, Flower Images. Honorable mention, Liz.
Love that.
Haha.
Thought it kind of looked like an optical illusion.
It does.
It
Gestalt. Very gestalt.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a cleat to put a
Oh,
rope on.
It was like a front of a truck or something.
Oh.
In the neighborhoods when we were walking around.
Wow.
Huh.
It's a cleat to put a rope on.
It's really hard to tell what's where. It's really cool.
If it was a cleat to put a rope on, what would it be doing on the front of a truck?
Or maybe it was a trailer. I forget.
Decoration.
We're enamored with it.
Yeah.
Trailer.
There are some people who are crazy enough to surf with trucks going backwards. That's a joke.
Okay. Anyway, pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Congratulations. Third place, me.
Job me.
And yes,
I thought that was
a couple
Nancy.
years ago, I put this in with color and the background was very bright and it just didn't have the same impact. And so I actually used an adjustable luminosity gradient to really tone down the background as well as to bring up the eyes of both the horse and the mistress.
Yep.
And it really seemed to pop. So thank you.
Good job, Steve.
Very nice.
I like the diagonal line you get from the horse's snout down.
Yeah, points down to the mistress. you
Yeah.
know?
And she's ahead of her time with her mask.
Yeah.
I wish they could have shown it, but the mare is actually, the shoes being worn are actually like platform hooves, which makes it much taller there.
Oh.
Interesting.
Wow.
Strange place.
Second place, Tim.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice.
Right.
I've been busy photographing the dahlias from my yard. One of these was sitting on my desk and it kept changing and getting more and more just, faded. And so I thought this would be an interesting one to use in black and white. And I kept working on it, trying to get the texture more of it. And the background is created by two, this is all done in Lightroom. So it's all done with creating the circular, can't even remember what they're called, but the gradient circles, and putting one in the center and then making a duplicate, moving it out. And during the outer ones, all the way to black and all the way with a, all the way. So it's so you really, what you do is get the black background.
Beautiful.
Done.
Wow. Radio filter, Tim.
Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
First place. Nancy.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really nice.
That feels like a Nancy. I love it.
We could recognize her.
Yeah. Well, it's a little more real than a lot of mine.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, like, probably, you know, multiple cards filled up that day discovering this place. And then when I saw that shaft of light, I was like, oh my God.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Like, I always visualize black and white, but I was like, oh God, this is great. And you know, it was when it was up here, and I look at these things over and over again. I go, what did I leave that stuff on the right for? And I did see, I didn't do a tangent, but it's a little close on the left. So I saw it as soon as it went up. So thank you for pointing that out, because I sure didn't see it. And I did get it, Bangkok Photographers Group put this in a book they did this year called 2020 Vision.
Nice.
Oh, very good.
Beautiful. Your sense of light and shadow is always so dramatic.
Wonderful.
And if you didn't have the hat there, it wouldn't have been as.
No.
Yep.
Or, yeah.
Hat and the light. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Nice. Beautiful.
Pictorial B, 5 images. Honorable mention. Joel.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I know what you're saying on the right. I look at it now and just bring it in. So thank you. Yeah, Brenda, thanks.
Nice. Nice job.
Congratulations. Honorable mention. Mark.
Another one.
Oh, thank you. This is out in Colusa County, and they just really had magnificent lighting at different times of the day. And so I worked out there. I was a CFO out at Rice Mill, and so I got a lot of beautiful photos out that way and on the refuges and everything. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. I like the feedback, by the way. It's funny. I had an uncle who was in the photography and gave me the exact feedback about not centering it, and I ignored him and I suffered for it. So.
Live and learn, right?
Thank you.
Congratulations. Third place. Elizabeth.
No, nice.
Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you. Monday's laundry day, and it's become my favorite day. So it's a chance to get my camera out, right? Thank you.
Really sweet.
A lot of fun. Nice use.
Congratulations.
Nice filtering,
Beautiful.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Second place. Ronnie.
Ronnie, wow.
So I was, I started doing these still lifes because I really admire a bunch of photographers that are doing still lifes, and I know that my parents spent a lot of money to send me to get my degree in art history. So I started collecting things to, what I like about this is that I get to be the art director. Is a lot of fun. And I You know, I had this Japanese teapot and these great looking apricots, and the background is actually a silk brocaded jacket, which my late mother wore to my son's wedding. And I just love putting these things together. And I think that I tried to do some light painting here on the hydrangeas. I'm pretty sure I did, but I can't remember for the life of me what I used. So thank you very much. I'm sorry I missed your comments, but Sherry shared a few with me. So if you want to add any.
It'll be on the video.
Yeah,
Nice.
great. Thank you. I forgot about that. Thank you.
It's very
Nicely done, Ronnie. I'm so glad you entered this because I saw this. I said, you better put this one in.
Oh, thank you.
I just had to unmute myself. As soon as you asked for comments, it said you're muted. And I was like, who did that to me? I actually had to get out. I had to log back in. Something happened and all of you froze and I was the only one in the gallery moving.
Oh,
The show was going on without me, so I got back in, thank goodness.
welcome back.
We missed you.
No, you didn't.
In first place.
Wow. That's unreal.
That is.
Not from this planet.
Yeah.
This is an amazing place down in Argentina with a lot of
Oh.
landforms like this. Same trip where Pat took the pictures of the whales being eaten by seagulls. I was shooting upside down landforms.
Wow.
And the question was the scale, and it, you know, a person would be maybe as tall as one of maybe two of the little mounds in the foreground. So this is maybe 60 feet high, this thing. And there's a bunch of them down there. It's amazing. So.
Wow.
So
Very nice.
interesting.
How did you get that lighting? Did you do light painting?
No, this is a composite of a shot taken near sunset the not sky part. The Milky Way was brought in later, and I just backed off in the exposure on the real
land
to make it look sort of like night, but not night. It was actually the night of the full moon, but this was before the full moon, if you get my drift there.
Blended them beautifully.
Yeah, you did a great job blending it.
Where'd you get the Milky Way?
Well, we got the Milky Way from a shot maybe a day or two later at an observatory high in the Andes.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Did you know at the time that you were going to blend them?
No.
Was the hongo and the rusty colored in the background of the same picture?
Yes, it was. Yeah, this area. I mean, this area is very much like the U.S. Southwest. So these red sandstones are very similar to the red sandstones we see all over Utah, Arizona.
Huh.
It's, you know, geologically, it's real similar. So it's kind of an amazing place.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
Nice image.
Congratulations. Pictorial A, 5 images. Honorable mention. Rick.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice color palette.
You're muted, Rick.
Love the color and lines in this.
I agree.
Where was that at?
Sorry, I was muted. It's inside one of General Vallejo's Adobe buildings outside of Petaluma. And what struck me at first was the colors. That green is either an algae or a lichen growing on those wood. And then it just had this wonderful blue light in the upstairs, and And I loved all the different lines, especially the oblique lines crossing in the middle there. So it was it's a real interesting place to take pictures.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Honorable mention, Guy.
Oh.
This was taken up in northern Washington. It's actually a composite of 3 photos. The sunset on the water was one, but there was just a black sky above it. So I found it. I took another sunset, stuck it on there, and the boat was not there. I needed some interest to add to it, so I put the little boat in. Actually flipped it over for a shadow on the bottom, and did some tweaking to the water, some warping to the water, so it left a little wake there. But that wasn't even in the picture at all. So.
Honest to God.
Nicely done.
Who could even think
done.
this way? I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that you turned it upside down to get the shadow of the boat so that
Right,
that
yeah, so
I mean,
it looked phony because there was no
Right.
reflection on the water, so I needed
Oh
a
my
faint
gosh.
reflection. So I
Oh.
covered the boat, flipped it over to leave a little shadow then, and then it still looked fake. I said it needs a little wake, so I did some warping in Photoshop to put the little wake in. So the boat was actually taken about a half hour later in another sunset.
Oh,
Very cool.
Nice.
That's
Good job.
Pictorial.
I wondered about the boat. That's a good job.
Congratulations. Third place, Steve.
Love that.
All right.
Yeah, that was a fun. It's just kayaking down the river and went around a corner and saw this little spot that was out of the, out of the wake of boats and everything. And that shoe was floating there, and I've got to get a shot of that. And that just stuck out. And there were people everywhere in the river. This is one of those days before COVID that was just absurd, with boats and people with plastic unicorns, everything. So it was chaos out there. So anyway, thanks.
I'm so glad you
for the
entered
feedback.
this one, Steve. I love this.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was
nice.
fun. Thanks.
Congratulations. Second place, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. This is the Legion of Honor, and museums are closed, but there's so much to see there. And my intention for going was just getting lights and shapes and shadows, so it didn't disappoint.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yay.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Nice, Sharon.
Nicely done.
Congratulations. First place, Steve.
Oh, cool. All right.
Now I know
Wait,
that
that's
this wasn't
tonight.
all done in one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was fun. Although I must say, I went out a couple different nights up to Lake Sonoma, and believe it or not, when I brought the exposure up, that water, the blue color was actually really vibrant in it when I brought up the shadow detail. And I actually desaturated it slightly, but then played with the luminosity a little bit. So it was, I had not seen it that blue, but it was taken at, the main part of it was taken just after sunset. So I had that, orange in the shot. And then I sat there thinking I couldn't even see the comet. And there were people with binoculars and saying they could see it with younger eyes than mine. And then out of the corner of my eye, I could just barely see it. So I got out a different lens and took a ton of shots of it. But I used a star tracker so that I could get much longer exposures, so I could get better detail in it. So I used the whole setup of the star tracker. I just changed lenses, one for the landscape portion of it, and then another one to get it, a little bit closer for the comet. Put a few images together. So it was an absurd amount of work. I did 2 of these, and I put this thing on, actually one before this, I had like some orange from headlights and stuff down below, but similar shot. I had like 5 times the amount of likes I've ever had anywhere on Facebook on this image. So I knew it was worth doing something with. But that was another one that was a ridiculous amount of work. I agonized over it. I had noise problems. I had just color problems, and a lot of help from a lot of people kind of talking it over with me. So anyway, thank you as well.
Good shot.
Pretty good. Real good.
Nice.
Gorgeous.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Great, thank you.
Pictorial AA. Honorable mention, Gary.
That was one that was at Johnson's Beach up in Guerneville. And I had seen a shot in the Press Democrat that they were showing it for social distancing, and you can just barely see the circles on each one. They're set 6 feet apart so that people could go to the beach and stay distance. But what I didn't realize is when I got down there early in the morning is there's a big rail on the bridge, you know, and growing up in Guerneville, we used to go out there all the time. Well, now they've got a big rail that's up there. And so I had to lift my camera way up in the air and use my newer camera. The back kind of flips out so you can hold it over your head and still do it on live view. So I took a whole bunch of those handheld, kind of supporting it on the top of that high fence rail that was like about 6-7 feet high, you know. So that, and then cleaned it up in Photoshop. In Photoshop there was like somebody didn't do a good job of picking up papers and stuff like that, you know. And so just to kind of keep it clean. Yeah.
Nice, Gary. Really nice. I love the umbrellas.
Yeah, me too.
Really nice. I really like it. And I live here. I can walk 5 minutes to that spot.
You're looking at comets.
Yeah.
Right, and lightning.
Congratulations. Honorable mention, Bob.
Right.
Yeah. First, I have a question. Does anybody know the name of this flower?
No.
You see it around quite a bit.
Not a succulent?
It is a succulent. I have one as well, but yours isn't covered with aphids. It's really
This one isn't mine. This one is growing in front of the community center in Sonoma. And, you know, I liked it because I had this one bright blossom in the middle and the others in all different disarray all around.
Yeah.
But I had to introduce some kind of structure. And so I thought of this triptych arrangement. And, you know, I thought it sort of worked. And I showed it to Tony also, and he suggested, you know, increasing the width of the spacing between the 3 panels and then some other minor points. And
well, you know, if I could interject about that, since you're talking about the spacing, one of the things, you know how some pictures work better as large prints and some work better smaller, depending on the complexity of the actual image and the elements in it. And so when you make, as you make a big print and you view it from further away, the gap between the pictures has to be a certain size. And then when you're viewing it smaller, that same width might look too big. So I'm looking at it on this screen here, and the size that it is maybe an 8x10 on my screen right now. So those two widths seem rather wide to me. And that might be a function of just how big or small one's viewing it in terms of determining what's right for that. Just a thought.
It's a good suggestion to scale it with the size of the print and all.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Yeah.
Brenda, how would you shade that separation? Now, this is kind of an off-white. Would you use pure white or something else, or just curious what you think, Brenda?
I don't know for certain. White seems, at least looking at it on the screen here, would be so vibrant that it might be too intense. Yep. But I might not go this gray. I might go somewhere in between, because this gray is a little close to some of the gray green that's in the stalks of the flower. So I feel like the gray is a little dull and flat, and I'd like it to be a little bit more, a little less so. So I would say probably in between pure white and this gray, somewhere in the middle there might be better. But you don't know till you try them, you know?
I want black. Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, not black.
Black.
I think, Bob, I would make the size of all of the borders the same, and I would do it as the same as the side. I think that would look good, and I would make it black.
Okay. I've got lots of suggestions.
You got your work cut out for you, Bob.
I would make it yellow.
I think the colors.
Yellow or red.
A quick comment about the name of the flower. There are apps you can get on your smartphones. Just aim the camera on the phone at a flower and it will identify it for you.
Nice.
This flower is a pig's ear.
Really?
Who just said that?
Philodendron obiculata, pig's ear.
Pig's ear?
Guy, you just
Yes,
said that.
it's a succulent.
Wow.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Guy. Excellent.
Thank you.
What's the Latin name? No.
Well done.
Bill.
Nice, Bill. Miss you, Bill.
Miss you, Bill.
And you're back.
He's not here?
Not here.
No.
Okay.
No, I like using Zoom.
Mike.
That was a grandfather shot.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so beautiful.
If those of you that are friends with me on Facebook, you know I photograph my two youngest grandkids all the time. And this was a couple of years ago when the oldest of the two was handing my wife this little dandelion. So I just happened to zoom in on the hands when they were doing it, and I always liked it. So thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Beautifully done, Mike.
Wonderful image. I love it.
Very good.
Very good, Mike.
Congratulations. Second place. Herb.
Oh, nice.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Thank you very much. This was kind of an opportunistic grab north of Jenner. We were on a hike and the clouds were lowish and the sun was where it was. And I said, I've got to get this. And it was just a point and shoot. And I actually liked it as it was, but without a boat, I think it was probably too minimal for general public. So I threw a little fishing boat in there.
No, don't tell me this.
That's perfect.
I think it's a great
I
idea.
need some boat shot.
Never mind, Brenda.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, actually, it's very good that you thought this needs a boat. I mean, I would love it as a minimalist shot without it, but a lot of people would feel like that was too empty.
Yeah.
And the boat really does make it.
Yep.
And it has somewhere to go.
Yeah. And it's the right size. You didn't put like a boat that was too big for the scale of the
Yep.
scene, you know?
It's just perfect.
I wanted
Love it.
Nice.
Wasn't there
Colors, tones, everything.
photograph that was something like?
Marilyn Cav.
Congratulations. First place.
Thank you.
Trisha.
Trisha. Nicely
Thank
seen,
you.
Trisha.
I'm surprised but pleased. I can find out where this was, but I don't remember where it was. It's fairly recent. Driving through somewhere and I saw this and just thought, wow, that's really cool. And I love stuff that's like falling apart and messy but ordered at the same time. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very nice. Love it.
Congratulations.
Right. Really nicely done. Good job, Trisha.
Composition.
Wonderful comp.
Good color.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Pictorial Masters, 4 images. Honorable mention, Nancy.
Yep.
You know, and just like the shaft in Bangkok, when I saw this come up and I went, yeah, I like a lot of negative space, but why didn't I cut it off over there? So I did see it immediately, and my praying mantis is a
We know what you're trying to say.
pubescent cucumber. A
Oh.
spiral.
Oh, yeah.
Now this makes sense.
And I think I will do, because I really love this and it does mean that so much to me.
Yeah.
And I did lots of the tendrils, and I think, Brenda, that you just need to know that the long-legged fly, which is what that's called,
Yeah.
I composited it in. Another composite for you.
Oh, yeah.
It's so bad.
Oh my gosh.
It looked
Well,
like,
no, actually, the thing is, you're all getting so good that it's hard to tell. And if you're going to do it right. Right?
was
So
really-
it doesn't look obvious.
It was really easy to do for a couple of reasons. One was that it was on a leaf like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was able to use a mode. I don't know if the mode was light and darken or overlay, but I went through the different modes. So it blended right in like that.
Amazing.
Funny.
Yeah.
Excellent. Love it.
Third place. Tim.
Well, this is really from my backyard, and Brenda, thank you. And
Coming over for lunch.
the apples are now dropping on the ground, and we're eating some of them. But it's been nice having this garden. And when I just was picking the tomatoes and so on, and I stuck them on a white table and started photographing them, and I said, this is not going to work. So I did the similar thing with the dahlia. And thank you for pointing out the little dots that I missed in getting rid of the black. So I haven't done many of these type of shots, and you'll notice that that I'm using my Apple iPhone. So thanks to thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, the apples look so good.
Helping out with.
Yeah, that's right.
Congratulations. Second place. Nancy.
This is actually, other than post-processing on the image, it is the picture as taken. It was in Thailand at a neighborhood wat, and it was an oil lamp during the day, and I saw this dandelion thing, and I'm like, oh, I got all excited and did shots of it, and so it was one of the early ones I wanted to play with, and I showed it in a group, and I showed it to Terry, and I says, I don't know about the candy corn. And she was like, I can't stop seeing the candy corn. And with it, but eventually I came back to I just did tons and tons of versions of adding reddish color and different things to get, because what I wanted is I saw that dancer there with that gesture and the feeling, the impermanent, sorry for taking time, but impermanence is a Buddhist concept. And it's that nothing is permanent. And I thought more delicate than a dandelion seed thing, I forget what it's called, flirting with a flame with oil right underneath it. So I'm really glad that it ended up translating. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well done, Nancy. Very, very
done,
lively.
Love this image. I still have a copy of this on my desktop that I was playing with. I was so entranced by it.
The reflection on the surface that the dandelion seed is sitting on is just extraordinary.
Yeah.
That makes it. I brought that out. I took it into Luminar 4 and tried all kinds of things. I have like so many layers and taking back and forth to different things because I wanted this one to work. I just, by golly, and Steve Gibbs was one of the people in the group that was trying to help me, and I think everybody gave up, and then I came around and said, I'm doing it. Thanks.
I do realize it,
Hey.
absolutely.
Glad it worked.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Congratulations. First place,
Congrats.
Liz.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, Liz.
I added the ants. No, I'm kidding.
You're kidding.
This is Joey's milkweed plant. And I didn't get a single butterfly on this plant all summer, but I got ants.
Better than getting crabs.
Better when hot gives you lemons.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really pretty. Those are
Thank you.
beautiful blooms, Liz.
Yeah.
I'll have you over next spring when it blooms again.
Oh, yeah, invite me. I'd love to see those. Those are awesome.
Gorgeous.
They're
Wow.
so gentle.
How small are they, Liz?
They're probably like a ½ inch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a thumbnail.
Yeah, a little bigger than that. But
Yeah.
it grows in a ball like an allium.
Right. That's pretty.
Congratulations.
I'm glad you got it first. It is just fabulous. Just I'm so unexpected to get those ants.
Trevor B, one image. Honorable mention, Elizabeth.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Padstow is just a sweet village, and I love to go there during the summer because the light's so fabulous in the evenings. Thank you.
Lovely light. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
My God.
Congratulations.
Very cool.
Travel A, 3 images. Third place, Linda.
Oh, yeah. This was beautiful. We're hiking around the lake and happened to see these 2 women paddleboarding, and the water was just stunning. It was last summer. Yeah.
So beautiful.
2019. Wow. Hard to keep the years straight. Thank you very
All
much.
coming together, isn't it?
Appreciate all your comments and everything. Thank you.
Good job, Linda.
Thank you.
Stunning.
Congratulations. Second place, Linda also.
This was right after all those rains that we had here, and decided to blast down there to Yosemite, and it was so wet. It was crazy. But met a fellow who said, you need to go down to a certain place to sit, and if everything is right, you can get a rainbow. So, parked down there for about sat on our butts for about an hour. Things hanging off your tripod, but it was really beautiful. Thank you very much.
It's worth it.
Nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It was fun to
Is
see.
the polarizer, Linda?
I don't remember, but it was interesting watching the evolution of this thing. One color came up, then 2 colors. It was like the red and the orange, then the yellow, and then the green and the blue, and then it's like, woo-wee.
You didn't use a tripod though, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you take a lot of different shots with the tripod in the same spot?
Yeah, about 400,000.
Did you try blending any of them together?
No, that would have been smart.
Try it. I've
Yeah.
done that with ocean images, and a lot of times I can end up blending details together and colors and stuff, and end up with excellent detail and some smoothness and colors and stuff that I wouldn't get with one image. So I might go back and play with it just for fun.
Oh, great. Thanks for the idea.
Yeah.
Congratulations. First
Yeah,
place,
congrats. Excellent.
Guy.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Second when I took this picture, it was a long time ago. I guess it pays to go back over old photos every now and then. It's your basic freezing cold night up on the Hawk Hill above San Francisco. And I love the way the bridge is lit. I like the contrast of colors, the complementary colors, I should say, the orange and the blue. And those little lights on the hill are the lights of Citro Tower. And I can actually see the tower on my monitor, but maybe not on yours. So thank you very much.
all I see are dots.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, Sutro, I think it's in the right area, but there's nothing below them.
Yeah, there's
That's
just
funny.
on my monitor is a very, very faint gray color to it.
Okay.
I might go clone them out because they do sort of look like they're floating in the sky.
I used to live out that direction, and Sutro Towers is usually in fog, so it's likely it's just standing alone because it's just above the fog, and that's all you saw.
The fog bank's actually up above. You can see a little hint of it up there,
Yeah,
in the upper right corner. So
Yeah.
it's a crystal clear night.
Looks like the real Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the choice of the bridge color and the sky color come together are just beautiful. Love it.
I think it makes it pop out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice guy.
Stunning.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Yeah.
Travel AA, 3 images. 3rd place, Bill.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow.
I guess what you don't see in this is all the people trying to take this picture. We drove around in a Jeep that would held 10 people and for hours saw deer and wild boar and birds. And suddenly the guide screams, "A tiger, I see a tiger, and he's coming this way." It's a female, actually. And
Hungry.
almost immediately 10 more Jeeps showed up. The tiger was just totally oblivious to it. She just came right through, right past our Jeep, just continued on as if we weren't even there.
Wow.
Wow.
And I took this in burst mode so I could get a few shots without an elbow or a branch or something in the way.
Great capture.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Congratulations. 2nd place,
Beautiful.
Herb.
Cool.
Wow. Thank you very much. This was one of the few shots that I actually had pre-visualized and planned a bit. This was, 8-1. That's the first day that you're allowed to camp on the island because the seagulls are done doing whatever they do for the rest of the time to prevent us from camping there. And it also happened to be a new moon. And I really wanted to get a reflection in the water because generally speaking, Mono Lake's water is I guess the salinity or whatever makes it heavier. So it kind of lies flat and you can get a good reflection. Unfortunately, this night it was windy and I didn't get the real reflection I wanted and thought about sticking it in a pictorial, but the quality wasn't good enough. So the long story short, this was a travel submission that I came up with. So thank you.
Good.
Wow.
Very nice.
Well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations. 1st place,
Thank you.
Bill.
Oh, Bill.
Monsanto.
I've seen this place before, and this is a great shot of it.
Yeah, he's done others, but yes, this is my favorite.
Great.
Wow. Very cool.
Travel Masters, 4 images. Honorable mention, Harry.
Oh, thank you. Well, this was in Morocco, and I don't know what that little one has in its hand. I don't remember. It sure looks like a knife. I'm not sure.
Stick.
Almost looks like a spine from a cactus.
Yeah, I just am not sure. But they were very curious. I don't think they get a lot of people in that village.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very sweet.
Well, was it also a Berber village?
It was a Berber village.
Yeah, and the Berbers are much more amenable to being photographed than the others. But even still, if they are, don't get a lot of visitors, I mean, there is a curiosity. I've had women come up to me and ask to be photographed, and it shocked me. And then I realized, oh, well, I'm in a Berber village, and I was told that the Berbers were much more open to that, So it's cool that you got these kids.
Yeah, it was fun.
Really cute.
It's very cute.
Very cool. Good job, Terry. I love it.
Thank you.
What a capture.
Congratulations. 3rd place, Anne.
Oh, I love that.
And
Wow.
Brenda, I do have really, can you hear me?
yes, you're
Yes,
here.
I have really mixed feelings about people and interactions with elephants and so forth. I did quite a bit of reading about this, and historically it's been very abusive, and so but I thought there was a lot of emotion for me in this picture, so that's
Yes.
Is that a young person who's sitting on the elephant? It looks like a small foot.
it's a
Or a big elephant.
a young man, I would think. I believe it was a young man. It was in Sukhothai, and they were having this festival celebrating the president or something, and so they had 3 elephants there.
And it would look like a small foot because the size of the elephant, the mass of the elephant, I think is throwing the scale. Yeah.
Yep.
Love your crop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Nicely seen and cropped and composed. Yep.
So thank you.
There's a lot of
Congratulations.
Good job.
Happy place. Tomorrow.
Wow.
Was,
That's very cool.
Mara wasn't here, right?
No. What a capture.
Right. Yeah, she really gets there.
Yeah, she does.
Her program is going to be about people photography.
What a surprise.
Masters. Yeah.
I wonder what's on their head. Is that clay?
It looks like okra, like the Himba in Namibia will put the okra all over their skin as a sun protection and decoration, a beauty sort of thing. This is much redder looking than that, but you know, it might be something similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
First place. Tim.
All right.
Oh, wow. Good job, Tim.
Nice job, Tim. Look at 2004. This is the first year we were in Thailand, and it was taken with a G2 camera. So it's a long time ago, and this image just kind of, as with Nancy, I go back and look at images, and this is one of the first ones I see because I hadn't done anything with it. So I thought it had some possibilities. And these are plums that are really very popular in Taiwan. And I can say that they were a little too sweet for my taste, but they were enjoyable. This was a festival that was taking place. And by the way, it's pronounced Dam Shui. And it's and the streets were just packed.
Yeah, it sure looks like it.
I like that one guy with his hand over his face. What?
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that until later. And
It's really interesting because it is very busy, but it totally plays. And
Yeah.
so many things like that guy with his hand over his face that are interesting.
There's a woman doing a kind of, look, there's a pucker in the middle to the,
Right.
to the right of the guy with the hand over his face, and
Right.
just so much.
many stories there.
Going
Oh
on.
my gosh.
It's
amazing that everything is so busy, and
Yeah.
it is such a talent. And it's interesting because their hair is all black. So in a sense,
Yes.
Good point,
like
Nancy.
the red balls form kind of a unit together, even though they're separate.
Yeah.
And the black hair is like other balls, kind of. It's just amazing that you did that.
The uniformity. Even though it's
All
busy.
the red around the image.
Yeah.
The skin color and the black. And the
The
red
focus
stand
goes all
out.
the way to the back. And if you read the language, you could actually read just about everything.
Yeah. Well done.
Interesting.
Good job, Tim.
F4.
Congratulations.
the G2 is really a good camera. So
Yeah.
you might-
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
Steve.
All right. Steve.
Very good.
Good going.
Dang.
Congratulations. Worth all that
Another
work.
one? Jeez. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
That's
Great.
great.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Good job.
Work.
Very
Yeah.
Well
excellent.
done. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh,
And-
you're welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And I just want to say thank you all too. This is a great opportunity and it's a different opportunity, but I always love seeing what you've all been up to and the creativity and the work that you've put into images. And it's been a lot of fun. So, you know, I'm glad that things are still going forward, even though we're all separate from each other pretty much right now. So keep that all happening, keep the passion up and keep shooting. And yeah.
Enjoy
Excellent.
your
Excellent. I
I really
appreciate
enjoyed
it.
your critique, Brenda.
Very nice.
All the
Thank you very much.
images. That
Very
was
nicely
followed very
done.
carefully. Really
Thank
good.
you.
Oh, wonderful critiquing.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Always
Thank
learn a
you.
lot from
Thank
you.
you very much, Brenda.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Brenda.
Good to
Nice
see
to
you all.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Enjoy your
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
On your